Hey, what's up? It's cute what if? This side. Today we will be seeing what if Deku tutored Uraraka and found love. Before we move ahead with the FIC, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for future what ifs like this. Izuku Midoriya sat quietly in class, attentively listening to the teacher's instructions. Today was just like any other day, taking notes, moving from one class to another, and repeating the process. This routine was not difficult for him. In fact, he excelled in his studies and was at the top of his class. Despite his academic success, he preferred to keep to himself. He had no friends, and he found comfort in the world of fantasy, which felt more like a companion than any real person could. As he finished his notes and completed the assigned homework, he patiently waited for the class to end, contemplating which comic book he might buy after school. In the front of the classroom sat Ochako Uraraka, the cheer captain of UA High School. Unlike Izuku, she struggled with her grades. For her, supporting her family was the top priority. She worked overtime to earn money and aimed for a scholarship to help provide for her household. However, balancing work and school was challenging, especially with the difficult subjects that did not relate to her extracurricular activities. She continued to grapple with her homework until the class bell rang. Their teacher, Aizawa, had asked Izuku and Ochako to meet with him after class. They approached his desk and handed in their papers. Aizawa addressed them, noting Ochako's struggles with her grades. He acknowledged her difficult home situation but emphasized the importance of maintaining adequate academic performance. To assist her, he assigned Midoriya as her tutor, given his status as the top student. Izuku was taken aback by this unexpected responsibility. His gentle nature made it hard for him to voice any objections, so he remained silent. Ochako, concerned about the pairing, asked if there was a specific time frame for the tutoring, expressing her worries about their differing academic levels. Aizawa reassured them that he did not expect them to become best friends. He simply wanted Ochako to improve her grades. He also mentioned that they could choose a location for their tutoring sessions, whether at school, a cafe, or their homes. With that, he excused them for lunch and left for the teacher's lounge. Once Aizawa was gone, Ochako turned to Izuku, suggesting they decide where to meet for tutoring. She proposed either of their houses. Midoriya felt a blush creeping onto his cheeks, not accustomed to being around someone as beautiful as Ochako, who was admired by many at school. She noticed his discomfort and quickly reassured him, clarifying that her earlier comment about their academic differences was not meant to be harsh. She expressed her desire to be friendly and hoped he wouldn't mind her talking a lot. Izuku shook his head, indicating that it was fine. Ochako was surprised by his soft-spoken nature and noted that he was taller than she had realized. She had not paid much attention to him in class due to his quiet demeanor, but now she found him intriguing. As she complimented his eyes, Izuku's face turned even redder. Concerned, Ochako asked if he was feeling unwell and reached out to check his forehead. This gesture only intensified his embarrassment, prompting him to leave the classroom in a hurry. Ochako called after him, worried that he might think poorly of her for being too forward. Alone in the classroom, she fretted about whether she had made him uncomfortable and chastised herself for talking too much. Packing her belongings, she left for lunch, hoping he wouldn't hold it against her. After walking a distance from the classroom, Izuku paused to catch his breath, still feeling the warmth from Ochako's touch on his forehead. As he made his way to the lunchroom, he couldn't shake the thought that a girl had touched him, something he never expected. His mind wandered into the realm of possibilities, contemplating the idea of love and whether someone like her could ever like him. He muttered to himself, trying to dismiss his thoughts. She had merely thought he was unwell. She was just a pretty girl, nothing more. He didn't even know her well. Why was he getting so flustered? Upon entering the cafeteria, he joined the line for food when his classmate, Tenya Ida, rushed over to him. Izuku had never anticipated such a close friendship with Ida, who often followed him around. Their shared passion for comic books brought them together, despite Ida's position as the leader of the track team, which typically kept him within the realm of sports. Popular stays with popular, and other groups remain within their own circles. Nonetheless, Ida continues to try to stay by Midoriya's side. Ida greets Midoriya, curious about why Mr. Aizawa needed him after class. Midoriya reassures him that he hasn't been mischievous. He was simply assigned to tutor someone. When Ida asks who, Midoriya reveals it is Ochako Uraraka. Ida expresses his skepticism, having heard not-so-great rumors about her, but he reminds Midoriya that rumors aren't always trustworthy. Midoriya hopes that his first impression of her being nice holds true. As they wait in line for lunch, Ida mentions his love for pizza, joking about its greasy nature. They both chuckle and once they have their pizzas, head to their usual spot in the corner of the cafeteria. Ida follows his routine of dabbing his pizza with a napkin to rid it of grease, while Midoriya eats without concern. Ida asks if Midoriya has gotten any new comics, sharing that he has obtained 3 and read the one Midoriya recommended, which he found interesting. Midoriya is glad Ida liked it, noting that many Batman and Joker comics have psychological elements, which Ida appreciates. As they discuss comics, Uraraka approaches their table unnoticed and sits down, intrigued by their conversation. She asks about a character named Starfire, catching Midoriya off guard. Ida introduces Uraraka to Starfire, explaining her alien background and how she learns human language. Uraraka expresses her interest in learning more about comic characters, which makes Midoriya blush. Suddenly, the lunch bell rings, and Uraraka realizes their time is up. She reminds Midoriya to text her before class starts, then leaves. Ida pats Midoriya on the back, reminding him that he will need to communicate with Uraraka eventually. Midoriya admits that talking to girls is difficult for him, feeling overwhelmed by the situation. After school, Midoriya prepares for his study session with Uraraka. He texts her back, receiving her address in return. Standing outside her house, he notes that it is smaller than he expected, given her status as cheer captain. He knocks on the door, which is answered by a man with dirty blonde hair and brown eyes, who introduces himself as Uraraka's father. He welcomes Midoriya inside and calls for Uraraka. As Midoriya enters, he observes the cozy living room, which feels homey despite its simplicity. Uraraka rushes into the room when she hears her name, ready to begin their study session. A short woman with brown hair and blue eyes emerged from the kitchen, apologizing for the wait. She gasped in surprise upon seeing Midoriya and began to walk around him, examining him closely, which made him feel flustered. She noted his nice structure, good posture, and fluffy hair, commenting that it was a good sign for his future. Midoriya managed to thank her, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman remarked on his gentle voice and good manners, prompting her husband to agree. After her examination, she took Midoriya's hands and smiled brightly, calling him a looker and suggesting he would make a lovely husband for her daughter, Ochako. Both Midoriya and Uraraka exchanged shocked glances, their faces turning beet red at the thought. The idea of them being a couple seemed impossible to them. Midoriya quickly denied it, while Uraraka insisted that he was just there to help her with her studies. Her mother playfully acknowledged their friendship, winking at Uraraka, who sighed in disbelief and led Midoriya toward her room. Her parents smiled at each other and returned to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Once in her room, Uraraka closed the door and apologized for her parents' excitement. Midoriya reassured her that it was fine, though he couldn't help but feel the weight of being in a girl's room, especially Ochako's. He thought about how surprising it would be for others to know about this. As he looked around, he noticed the pink walls, white carpet, and a bed adorned with flowers, reflecting her sweet personality. Uraraka sat on her bed, pulling out her schoolwork, pencils, and erasers, and tried to strike up a conversation. She observed that he didn't seem to talk to many girls, which he confirmed, feeling a bit embarrassed. She pointed out that he was much more casual with Ida, suggesting they were friends, which he hesitantly denied. Uraraka encouraged him to see that not all girls were the same and that everyone was different. After blowing away the pencil shavings, she invited him to join her on the bed to start studying. Midoriya sat at the edge, feeling flustered as she scooted closer. They began with math, a subject Uraraka struggled with, but Midoriya remained patient, which she appreciated. After an hour and a half, they moved through the other subjects more easily, with Midoriya growing more comfortable talking to her. As they reached English, Uraraka insisted on handling it herself. She began working while asking about a character named Starfire. Midoriya described her as nice and optimistic, capable of shooting green beams and flying. When Uraraka inquired about Starfire's romantic interest, he explained about Dee Grayson, one of the Robins from the Bat family. Intrigued by his stories, she gradually lost focus on her work as he detailed the various Robins and their adventures. Before they knew it, night had fallen. Midoriya glanced outside, realizing how late it had become. He panicked, apologizing for not keeping track of time and feeling like a terrible tutor. Uraraka reassured him, saying she was almost finished and would complete the last question before letting him go. He offered his help if she needed it in the future, and she calmed him down with a smile. Once she finished her work, she sighed in relief. Midoriya checked everything over and complimented her on a job well done. Uraraka thanked him, saying she couldn't have done it without his help. In a moment of spontaneity, she hugged him softly, catching him completely off guard. His mind raced as he thought about how to respond, and he gently pushed her away, apologizing for his reaction. Uraraka laughed, remembering that he wasn't really a touchy person. Midoriya felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he prepared for another study session with Uraraka. She had insisted on coming over to his place, claiming curiosity about his home life, but then she unexpectedly canceled their plans. This was against Mr. Aizawa's mandate that they meet for study sessions at least 3 to 4 times a week. Determined not to let this slip, Midoriya decided to visit Uraraka's house to ask her parents where she might be. They informed him that she was likely at work and provided him with her job location. He quickly boarded a bus and made his way to a small cafe at the corner of a street, surrounded by various shops. Upon entering the cafe, he was greeted warmly by a woman in a maid outfit. She welcomed him enthusiastically and led him to a small table. Midoriya felt his cheeks warm as he thanked her. The greeter offered a variety of delicious treats and beverages, and after a moment of hesitation, he ordered green tea. As he waited, he scanned the cafe for Uraraka and spotted her chatting with another girl who had blonde hair and a cheerful demeanor. Once the girl left, Midoriya waved to get Uraraka's attention. She looked over, her expression shifting to one of surprise and embarrassment as she approached him. Midoriya explained that he thought they could study after her shift, noting that most assignments were due later in the week. However, Uraraka seemed agitated and expressed that she had more important matters to attend to than school. Just then, her boss approached, reminding her to stay in character while working. With a sigh, Uraraka quickly shifted her demeanor, returning to him with his tea and a bright smile. Midoriya assured her that the tea was fine and that he would wait for her shift to end. As he sipped his drink, he observed her working tirelessly, her cheerful attitude masking her fatigue. Time passed slowly, and eventually he rested his head on the table, drifting into a light sleep. He was stirred awake by Uraraka's gentle voice. As he rubbed his eyes, he noticed the blonde girl from earlier saying goodbye to Uraraka. Midoriya asked if she was from their school, and Uraraka confirmed that she was, introducing her as Himiko Toga. She warned Midoriya to be cautious around Toga, mentioning rumors about her past that painted a troubling picture. Curious, Midoriya inquired about the rumors surrounding Uraraka. She shrugged off the gossip, insisting that she didn't put much stock in it, but admitted that people often said strange things about her too. Despite the chatter, Midoriya admired Uraraka's resilience and determination, feeling grateful for her friendship. Not to say they believed any of it. She chuckled nervously, reflecting on the rumors surrounding her. People often labeled her as selfish or spoiled, and she felt the weight of those judgments. He offered her a calm expression and took her hand gently. He expressed his regret for bringing up a difficult topic, assuring her that he didn't see her that way. His words touched her heart, and she felt a wave of relief wash over her, causing her eyes to well up with tears. He panicked, realizing he had upset her. He stumbled around the table, clumsily handing her a napkin as she smiled and giggled, dabbing at her cheeks to dry her tears. She thanked him for being there, admitting that she had been stressed about her grades and her tendency to neglect her homework for her job. He promised to be there for her every night if she needed him. As she blushed, she became aware of his warm hands still holding hers, making her heart race. She quickly pulled her hand away, flustered, and suggested they focus on studying. She stood up and hurried into the back of the cafe. He wondered what had gotten into her, realizing he had instinctively grabbed her hand to comfort her. His face turned as red as hers as he scolded himself for his actions. After a few moments, she returned, looking different from how he had ever seen her. She seemed more mature, and he couldn't help but admire her beauty, which was a stark contrast to her usual school uniform. When she apologized for the wait, he felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. They decided to start with math, and although he struggled, they continued their study session late into the night until the cafe closed. Midoriya nervously walked her home, unable to speak normally. Outside his house, she felt a mix of excitement and curiosity about him. After ringing the doorbell, a short, chubby woman with green hair and green eyes answered, accompanied by a tall man with bright blue eyes. The woman, Inko, greeted her warmly, calling her beautiful and introducing her husband, Toshinori, who playfully complimented her. Inko noticed Uraraka's discomfort and invited her inside, mentioning that Izuku was in his room. As Uraraka stepped into the cozy living room, she admired its colorful decor before following Inko's directions down the hallway. Family pictures adorned the walls, including a recent wedding photo of Inko and Toshinori. At the end of the hall, she found Izuku's room, filled with superhero posters and comic books. She chuckled to herself, recognizing it as his space. A gray desk in the corner suggested it was meant for studying. Curiosity led her to open another door, expecting a closet, but instead she found herself face to face with Midoriya, who was in the middle of a shower. Startled, she quickly closed the door, her face burning with embarrassment. She apologized profusely, while he reassured her that it was okay and that he would be out soon. She hurried to the desk, trying to shake off the image of him, but her cheeks remained flushed. Covering her face with her hands, she wondered what was wrong with her. After a few minutes, he emerged from the bathroom, and they both felt the weight of the awkwardness in the air. To break the tension, she commented on his extensive collection of books. He stammered in response, acknowledging his love for comic books. The conversation fell silent, and they exchanged shy glances, both blushing and quickly looking away. She apologized again, explaining she hadn't realized it was a bathroom. He assured her it was fine and suggested they move on from that topic. She admitted her curiosity about him, clarifying that she wasn't there to steal anything. Unable to meet her gaze, he responded with actions instead, eager to shift the focus back to their studies. Another small door is next to the head of his bed on the left, one she hadn't noticed before. He walks over to it and opens it for her. He mentions that there are some things inside if she wants to look. She stands from the chair, walks over to the doorway and enters. Inside his closet, she finds common items like clothing and shoes, as well as some boxes above. Looking down at the shoes, she notices multiple trophies and medals in a box. She glances at him, silently asking for permission to explore. He encourages her to go ahead, assuring her that he doesn't mind. She kneels down, reaches into the box, and pulls out one of the larger trophies. It features a small golden figure of a man in a karate uniform, bowing respectfully. Reading the engraving at the bottom, she discovers it states, "First place, Karate Championship Trophy." She seems surprised, not expecting him to be the fighting type. Curious, she asks if he used to do karate. He confirms that he did, mentioning he was quite good and earned a black belt, but he stopped practicing. She suggests he could join the karate club at school and potentially become a master again. He hesitates, revealing that while he feels joining might be beneficial, something holds him back. She contemplates this and decides to make a bargain, blushing and smiling at him. She proposes that if he joins the karate club, she will give him a small reward. Intrigued, he asks what kind of reward it would be. She playfully tells him that he will find out once he joins, urging him to trust that it will be worth it. He scratches the back of his head and sighs, agreeing to think about it but suggesting they should focus on studying. She nods and they take out their papers, starting with math. Despite helping her with her work, he can't shake thoughts of what her reward might be. It's Friday night, and a football game is taking place at school. Uraraka has invited Midoriya and Ida to enjoy the game and watch her cheer. Deep down, she hopes to impress them with her skills and desires their company after cheering. When the boys arrive, they settle on the bleachers, waiting for the game to start while munching on popcorn. Meanwhile, Uraraka is in the girls' locker room, changing into her cheer costume. Once she and her team are ready, she prepares them to head out onto the field. She encourages her teammates to remember the routine and assures them that even if they mess up, they all did their best. One teammate expresses impatience, while another reminds her to respect their captain. With a wink, the girls run onto the field, shaking their pom-poms in the air. Take their positions, Uraraka scans the crowd for Midoriya. Spotting his familiar green hair, she waves enthusiastically. He notices her, his cheeks flushing as he returns her wave. One of her teammates teases her about her expression, suggesting she has a crush on him. Flustered, she denies it, insisting he is just her tutor. The teasing continues, but she focuses back on Midoriya, feeling a rush of emotions. To regain her concentration, she smacks her cheeks and begins the routine with her team as the football players start playing. Their dance begins simply but grows more intricate over time. Midoriya watches in awe, impressed by their performance. He comments on how amazing she is, acknowledging the hard work and practice it takes to perfect such a routine. Ida notes that he seems more focused on the dance than the game itself. Midoriya explains that they came to support her, and Ida observes that Midoriya appears more at ease around girls than usual. Realizing this, Midoriya reflects on how being around Uraraka has made him more comfortable. As they continue watching the game, their team is tied with the opposing school, and the girls cheer louder, boosting the players' spirits. Midoriya's attention returns to Uraraka, and he admires her passion and dedication. Despite her evident fatigue, her determination shines through, making it clear that cheering is something she loves. As the game nears its end, their team finally secures a win, and the crowd erupts in cheers, celebrating their school's victory. After most of the families and cheerleaders leave, Midoriya remains on the bleachers, waiting for Uraraka. Ida decides to leave early to make it home for dinner. After a bit more time of waiting, she finally emerged from the locker rooms in casual clothing, a duffel bag in hand, likely containing her school supplies and attire. She quickly walked over to him. Uraraka felt a rush of excitement as she asked what he thought of her performance. Midoriya expressed his admiration, saying she did a great job and that he had never seen anyone move like that before. He also praised her leadership skills. Hearing this brought a big smile to her face, encouraging her to strive for even greater heights. She expressed her relief that he liked it, mentioning how long they had practiced that routine. Midoriya complimented her, saying she made it look easy, which made her blush. Uraraka shared her gratitude that he could make it, especially since her parents had been busy with work lately. Midoriya reassured her that it was no trouble at all and offered to attend all her games if she wanted. Surprised, she asked if he would really do that for her. He nodded, and she felt a warmth in her heart, realizing how much it meant to have someone care for her. It was a feeling she wasn't used to, often handling things on her own. Overwhelmed with joy, she felt tears welling up in her eyes. Midoriya panicked, worried he had upset her, realizing this was the second time he had made her cry. In a moment of vulnerability, she jumped into his arms, thanking him. As she hugged him tightly, her tears flowed freely, and he held her close, understanding that she wished her parents were there. He knew he couldn't replace them, but he hoped his presence would provide some comfort. Once she calmed down, she gently pulled away, wiping her tears and trying to regain her composure. Apologizing for her outburst, she felt embarrassed. Midoriya smiled gently, assuring her that it was okay and that she didn't need to apologize. He reminded her that she had his number and could reach out anytime. Uraraka smiled back, saying she would be happy to call him. Midoriya blushed, feeling pleased. She then suggested they walk home together, to which he eagerly agreed. As they walked side by side, Uraraka felt her spirits lifting with each passing moment. She never expected to find such a good friend in him, nor did she anticipate the feelings blossoming within her. Unbeknownst to her, Midoriya was experiencing similar emotions. Later, Midoriya found himself in the school library, searching for new comic books. He was particularly looking for a specific X-Men comic. After a bit of searching, he finally found the one he had been looking for and felt a rush of excitement as he held it in his hands. As he made his way to the front to check out the book, he noticed Uraraka glancing through the bookshelves, seemingly trying to hide. He approached her, but when he spoke, she jumped in surprise. She quickly shushed him, explaining she was trying to hide from someone. Curious, he looked in the direction she was watching and recognized a childhood friend of his. When he mentioned the friend's name, Uraraka revealed that he was her ex. Midoriya was taken aback, never expecting that connection. She admitted that their relationship hadn't ended well, and he immediately felt a pang of sympathy for her. Apologizing for bringing up painful memories, he reassured her that it was okay. She sighed and asked why he was there, to which he explained he was looking for comics. When she asked which one, he mentioned the Dark Phoenix saga and suggested they read it together. Her smile brightened, and she happily agreed. Just then, a familiar voice called out to her, and she turned to see Katsuki Bakugo, her ex-lover. The atmosphere grew tense as Midoriya greeted Bakugo, who quickly turned his attention to him with an intense glare. Bakugo questioned what Midoriya was doing with Uraraka, and she defended him, stating he was her tutor. Bakugo dismissed her, lighting a cigarette and ignoring the rules about smoking in the library. Uraraka reminded him of the rules, but he retorted rudely. Midoriya felt anger rise within him and stood up for Uraraka, telling Bakugo not to speak to her that way. Bakugo smirked, dismissing Midoriya's concerns and belittling him. Midoriya, determined to protect Uraraka, rolled up his sleeves and loosened his tie, ready to confront Bakugo. He acknowledged that he didn't know the details of their past but insisted that he wouldn't allow Bakugo to disrespect her. He expressed that she had become a dear friend to him and urged Bakugo to back down. Bakugo simply smiled, taking another puff of his cigarette, the tension between them palpable. He blew the smoke in Midoriya's face, but Midoriya remained still, his eyes filled with intensity. Bakugo dismissed them, claiming he had bigger issues to deal with and left the library. Both Midoriya and Uraraka sighed in relief. Uraraka expressed her apologies to Midoriya, feeling guilty for putting him in that situation. Midoriya reassured her that she hadn't made him do anything and gave her a thumbs up with a smile. Uraraka complimented him, saying he was amazing, which made him blush and shake his head in modesty. He insisted he was just acting like any friend would. Uraraka confided in him, revealing that Bakugo had been bothering her since their breakup. She speculated that he was struggling to cope with the situation. Midoriya hesitated but offered to listen if she wanted to share more, assuring her that it was entirely up to her. Feeling comfortable, Uraraka decided to open up. She hadn't shared the real reason for her breakup with anyone, not even Ishido, but she felt she could trust Midoriya. He smiled, suggesting they find a place to sit and talk. They moved to a quiet corner of the library, settling into two bean bags as she began her story. Uraraka recounted how it all started about a year ago. She and Bakugo had crossed paths occasionally at parties, but their relationship was not romantic at first. During that time, she faced serious challenges, including bullying from her peers. Midoriya frowned, feeling sympathy for her struggles and remaining silent as she continued. Uraraka described the physical and emotional toll the bullying took on her. She believed their actions stemmed from a desire to exert their anger and jealousy towards her. The memories of her mother's desperate attempts to understand her pain surfaced, but Uraraka had chosen to keep silent, not wanting to cause trouble. She shared how, overwhelmed by sadness and depression, she felt hopeless and considered ending it all. She didn't want to switch schools, fearing it would be harder to make friends, especially since she had Ishido. One night, she decided to attend a party where she met Bakugo, who seemed strong and capable, a stark contrast to his current self. She approached him, asking for his help, which led to a unique arrangement where he became her protector and, eventually, her boyfriend. Their relationship began as platonic but gradually evolved into something genuine. Bakugo expressed his feelings, and Uraraka eagerly accepted, feeling elated and hopeful about their future together. However, things began to change. Bakugo started disappearing from school, and Uraraka's initial suspicions of infidelity morphed into concern as she noticed his physical decline. It became evident that he was struggling with addiction, prioritizing it over everything, even her. Uraraka confronted him, heartbroken by his transformation. She pleaded with him to recognize the damage he was doing to himself, her tears flowing freely. Bakugo, caught in an internal struggle, reacted violently, expressing his frustration. Uraraka questioned why he would choose this path, reminding him of the happiness they once shared. Bakugo harshly rejected her, claiming their relationship had never been real and that they came from different worlds. He walked away, leaving her devastated and alone, clutching the remnants of their past. Even though he had left her, she tried to reach out to him whenever she could. The bullying resumed after his departure. Eventually, those same students transferred, thanks to Ishido, who informed the teachers about the situation despite her pleas not to. Present day, Uraraka began to softly cry, prompting Midoriya to gently take her hand in his. He expressed his sorrow for what she had endured. Uraraka reassured him that she was fine now, but the memories had resurfaced after their conversation. Midoriya felt relieved that she had shared her feelings and promised to be there for her whenever she needed support. She blushed and smiled at his kindness. As she glanced out the window, she realized how late it had become. They needed to leave. When she mentioned going home together, Midoriya agreed, albeit a bit flustered. Uraraka playfully reminded him that he could let go of her hand, causing him to apologize sheepishly. They gathered their belongings and exited the library, beginning their walk home. Midoriya decided to walk Uraraka home first since it was getting dark. Once they arrived at her house, she turned to him and expressed her gratitude for the ride. Midoriya responded that it was no trouble at all. As they locked eyes, Uraraka hesitated before asking him to lean down slightly. He complied, curious about her request. Without hesitation, she stood on her tiptoes and placed a gentle kiss on his forehead. Midoriya blushed deeply, surprised by the gesture. When she pulled away, she thanked him for the evening, promising never to forget it. After she entered her house, Midoriya stood there, flabbergasted, replaying the moment in his mind as he walked home, feeling the lingering warmth of her lips on his forehead. A week passed since Uraraka and Midoriya had spent time together. Since they began studying, Uraraka had switched lunch tables to sit with Midoriya and Ida, enjoying their company more. However, since their heartfelt discussion about her past and the special moment they shared, Midoriya found it increasingly difficult to focus on anything else. His thoughts were consumed by her, making it hard for him to sleep or eat. Whenever he was near her, his instinct was to retreat, leaving Uraraka confused and determined to reconnect with him. After losing sight of her once more, Midoriya hid behind a wall at school, peeking out to see her searching for him. Suddenly, a voice startled him. He turned to find another student leaning against the wall with an art book and pencil in hand. The boy seemed slightly annoyed but tried to ignore it. Midoriya stammered that he was hiding from a friend, feeling embarrassed. The other student, noticing his discomfort, asked for his name. Midoriya introduced himself as Izuku Midoriya, and the boy replied he was Shoto Todoroki, mentioning he had seen Midoriya around school. Todoroki then inquired about the person Midoriya had feelings for, causing him to blush. He stammered that it was complicated. Todoroki, understanding the situation, invited Midoriya to sit with him and continue their conversation, though he intended to return to his drawing soon. Curious, Midoriya glanced at Todoroki's artwork, admiring the realistic depiction of a girl with long black hair tied in a ponytail. When he asked who she was, Todoroki revealed she was the girl he loved but mentioned that she was too busy to be in a relationship, as she was the class president. Midoriya inquired if he had confessed his feelings, and Todoroki chuckled, sharing that he had done so many times, but her response was always the same: she would blush and tell him he was being selfish. He believed that love was inherently selfish and that one could not control whom they loved. As Midoriya listened, he contemplated his own feelings for Uraraka, admitting that he might be in love with her. Todoroki raised an eyebrow, surprised, but then acknowledged that he had heard about Midoriya tutoring her, suggesting that feelings had developed. Todoroki decided to leave, stating that Midoriya needed to think about his feelings on his own. Before departing, Midoriya invited him to have lunch with them the following day, to which Todoroki agreed, appreciating the invitation. Feeling pleased to have made a new friend, Midoriya stood up to return to class when suddenly Uraraka called out to him. She approached, pushing him gently against the wall, questioning why he had been avoiding her. Midoriya's thoughts raced, feeling overwhelmed by her closeness. Those same butterflies in his stomach began to swirl as soon as she was near him. Midoriya felt a lump in his throat as he hesitated to speak. Uraraka stood her ground, refusing to let him go until he opened up about what was troubling him. He pleaded with her, explaining that they had class soon, but she was determined to understand why he was avoiding her. She expressed her frustration, insisting that he needed to talk to her. Midoriya took a deep breath, trying to gather his thoughts. He finally admitted that he might have feelings for her. The shock on her face was evident. The idea of them being together seemed absurd to her. Deep down, however, she realized she had developed a crush on him, something she was reluctant to acknowledge. She stepped back, clenching her fists against her chest. Uraraka voiced her concerns about their different social statuses and how their relationship would attract unwanted attention. She pointed out that he only thought he loved her, suggesting it might just be infatuation. Midoriya felt a pang of sadness at her response but remembered Todoroki's words about love being a selfish thing. He smiled at her, determined to express his feelings regardless of their differences. As overwhelming sadness washed over Uraraka, she quickly turned to leave, apologizing as she walked away. Midoriya called out to her, but she sprinted off, seeking solitude beneath a large tree on campus. Unable to hold back her tears, she broke down, questioning why someone like him would ever care for her. Suddenly, 2 members of her cheer squad appeared, taunting her. They reveled in her distress, mocking her feelings for Midoriya. Uraraka pleaded with them not to hurt him, but their anger escalated, and one of them struck her. She fell to the ground, overwhelmed by the pain and fear of what might happen to Midoriya if they targeted him. Just then, Bakugo and Kirishima arrived, rushing to her aid. Bakugo confronted the girls, demanding they leave Uraraka alone. He and Kirishima quickly subdued them, ensuring they could no longer harm her. Bakugo, with a smirk, reminded them of their past actions, warning them not to provoke Uraraka again. Once the girls fled, Kirishima knelt beside Uraraka, offering her a gentle smile and asking if she needed help. She insisted she could manage on her own. Meanwhile, Midoriya was searching for her, worried after she had run away. When he spotted her with Bakugo and Kirishima, he rushed over, kneeling beside her and wrapping her in a careful embrace. She clung to him, sobbing and apologizing for everything, feeling guilty for their friendship. Midoriya brushed her hair back gently, his heart aching for her. He asked who had hurt her, and Bakugo informed him it was the girls from her cheer squad. He reassured her that they wouldn't bother her again. As Bakugo lit a cigarette, he expressed his disdain for the way people judged others based on status. Midoriya thanked Bakugo and Kirishima for protecting her, grateful for their support. Kirishima, proud of his relationship with Ishido, shared his happiness, but Bakugo, eager to move on, urged them to head to class, pulling Kirishima along with him. Uraraka felt a mix of gratitude and relief, knowing she had friends who would stand up for her. It was a Friday evening after school, and over a week had passed since Uraraka's incident. Most of her injuries had healed, but she had caught a minor cold. Despite this, Midoriya made it a point to visit her every day after school. During this time, he had finally joined the karate club, but Uraraka was unable to reward him for it due to her illness. He was about to participate in his first tournament next week, and she was determined to be there to support him. She had been resting and taking medicine, doing her best to recover. As she slept peacefully in her room, Midoriya entered quietly. He walked to her bedside and sat on the edge, gently trying to wake her. He called out to her, letting her know he was there and that he had brought food. Uraraka, a heavy sleeper, took a while to awaken. Groggily, she sat up, still caught in a sleepy haze. Midoriya playfully urged her to wake up, but she mumbled, asking him not to make her get up, claiming she was too sleepy. When her face fell against his chest, he was caught off guard. She nuzzled against him, finding warmth in his presence, which made him blush. Still in her dreamy state, she giggled and called him cute, then curled back into her bed, leaving Midoriya speechless and surprised. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts, and gently shook her again. Slowly, she opened her eyes, squinting at him before smiling. As they exchanged greetings, she stretched and yawned, confirming she had slept well and even had a good dream. When he asked about it, she teased him, saying it was a secret, and then inquired about the food he had brought. Midoriya shared that he had brought mochi, knowing it was her favorite, and suggested they could share it. He also mentioned he had brought some superhero movies and comics for her to enjoy, along with her homework to help her catch up. Uraraka expressed excitement about the movies, although she wasn't keen on the homework. When she asked which movies he had, he explained that he had brought several DC films, noting her apparent preference for them. As they prepared to watch the movies, they settled into comfortable positions and opened the mochi packs, enjoying the sweet treats together. The story began to unfold on the screen, and they shared smiles and laughter, enjoying each other's company. The story begins by introducing the characters, and Uraraka quickly becomes fascinated with Starfire. Her kind personality and charm captivate her, and she finds herself intrigued by all these new characters. This reaction brings joy to Midoriya, who enjoys watching her experience the unfolding story. It reminds him of when he was first introduced to these characters, and he feels happy to share that same excitement with her. As the story concludes, Uraraka is moved to tears of happiness as she bids farewell to the magical characters. Uraraka expresses her delight, feeling sympathy for Terra and excitement at seeing everyone in action. Midoriya is pleased that she enjoyed the movie, noting that he has never really shared this experience with anyone else. While Ida is usually busy with his track team or studying, Midoriya feels hesitant to bother him. Uraraka reassures him that Ida would love to hang out if asked. Midoriya blushes and gazes into her eyes, contemplating the possibility of a kiss. Uraraka is taken aback but eventually nods in agreement, expressing concern about keeping their feelings a secret for safety reasons. Midoriya understands and gently holds her hand, creating a warm, protective atmosphere. He assures her that he won't pressure her, and Uraraka encourages him to kiss her. Just as their lips draw closer, Uraraka's mother unexpectedly interrupts, causing them to jump apart, their hearts racing. Uraraka is flustered, and Midoriya apologizes profusely. Her mother, however, reassures them that she won't tell anyone and offers them cookies. Uraraka, still embarrassed, asks her mother to leave her room. Later, Uraraka returns to school after being sick. The teacher rearranges the seating, placing Midoriya, Ida, and Uraraka next to each other. Midoriya chooses to squat beside Uraraka's desk to engage more comfortably in the conversation. Uraraka expresses her happiness about sitting with them, and Ida mentions he has invited a longtime friend to join them for lunch. Midoriya laughs nervously, feeling that the table will be more crowded than usual. To reassure him, Uraraka subtly touches her foot against his, and they share a shy moment. She offers him a spot next to her, and Ida agrees that it's a good idea. Midoriya acknowledges the plan, and Ida reminds him about his upcoming karate tournament, which he plans to attend along with Uraraka. As the bell rings for lunch, the three friends head to the cafeteria, eagerly awaiting the arrival of their classmates. Uraraka wonders if everyone will show up, and Ida emphasizes that what matters is enjoying each other's company. They are soon joined by Todoroki and his guest, Momo Yaoyorozu. Midoriya greets Todoroki warmly, who introduces Momo, claiming she will be his future wife. The group is taken aback, and Momo blushes, urging Todoroki to stop with the playful declarations. He leans closer, insisting that her eyes reveal her true feelings. Momo, flustered, cannot deny his words, and Todoroki encourages her to relax and enjoy the gathering. As they settle in, Todoroki expresses his pleasure in meeting Ida and Uraraka, while Momo shares her happiness about Todoroki making new friends. Uraraka feels similarly about Midoriya, and the group begins to bond over their shared experiences. He doesn't have too many friends other than me and Ida, and while I've been happy to see him grow, I think it's always good to branch out from the norm every once in a while. Momo agreed, sharing a smile. Ida expressed his curiosity about Todoroki's artistic talents, asking if it was true that he did art. Todoroki confirmed that he used to draw landscapes but now focused on drawing Momo, finding everything else somewhat bland. Midoriya excitedly suggested that Todoroki draw them as superheroes, which sparked a thoughtful response from Todoroki, who admitted he wasn't sure where to start. Uraraka encouraged him to begin with Momo as a superhero, and Todoroki began to get ideas. Kirishima and Ishido announced their arrival, and the girls quickly hugged, thrilled to see each other. Ishido expressed her happiness for Uraraka's improvement, apologizing for not being there for her earlier. Uraraka reassured her that it was fine and that she was just glad to see her. Kirishima proudly introduced Ishido as his girlfriend, showering her with compliments. Ishido playfully reacted to his affection, while Midoriya chuckled at Kirishima's enthusiasm for calling her his girlfriend. Kirishima continued to express his joy at being with someone so amazing. Ida acknowledged Kirishima's role in helping Uraraka during her time of need, and Kirishima affirmed that he couldn't just stand by. Ishido chimed in, emphasizing Kirishima's bravery. Momo remarked on the blossoming love in the school, noting how passionate it was, which Todoroki countered by mentioning that many people were in love, though some were harder to read than others. Ida, intrigued by Ishido's appearance, asked if it was too personal to inquire about her looks. Ishido responded that many were curious, explaining her eye contacts, dyed pink hair, and her fondness for bugs, despite being a cheerleader. She also mentioned her naturally pinkish skin due to a medical condition, assuring them it was harmless. Midoriya found it fascinating, suggesting she had the makings of a real-life superhero, to which Ishido enthusiastically agreed. Suddenly, a pink-haired girl named Hatsum joined them, focused on a small mechanical object. Ida greeted her warmly, and she introduced herself, apologizing for being absorbed in her work. Kirishima expressed interest in her device, and Hatsum explained it was a programmable computer, or a robot in simpler terms. Ida praised her inventiveness, mentioning how he often assisted her with her projects. Uraraka was impressed and asked if she had created one that moved, to which Hatsum excitedly confirmed, offering to show them her research and possibly test things out on them. Kirishima's curiosity about Bakugu's arrival led to a conversation about Toga, Bakugu's companion. Ishido explained that while Bakugu didn't technically have a girlfriend, he had been spending time with Toga, who had shown significant improvement. Kirishima warned everyone to be cautious around Toga due to her multiple personality disorder, which Uraraka confirmed she had learned about recently. Hatsum reassured them that everyone seemed relaxed, so there was likely nothing to worry about. Momo agreed, noting that they all seemed much nicer than the usual crowd she had encountered. Just then, Bakugu and Toga arrived at the table. Toga greeted everyone cheerfully, while Bakugu expressed his annoyance at her clinginess. Uraraka welcomed Toga and asked how she had been. Toga happily shared that both she and Bakugu were making great progress, thanks to therapy, and she was feeling less of a desire to harm others. Midoriya found her a bit intimidating, but Momo praised her progress, wishing them both well. Toga expressed her gratitude and apologized for any odd behavior, while Bakugu encouraged her to be herself, stating that if others didn't like it, they didn't have to be there. Ida welcomed them, assuring them they were always welcome. Todoroki then revealed he had finished his drawing of Momo as a superhero. Uraraka was astonished that he had completed it so quickly, and Ishido eagerly asked to see it. Everyone gathered around to look at his artwork, and Momo blushed at how she appeared in the drawing. Todoroki explained that her ability allowed her to manifest anything she desired, and he complimented her beauty. Kirishima and Midoriya praised the artwork, while Ishido found Todoroki's words sweet. Bakugu simply acknowledged the drawing, and Ida admired the piece, with Hatsum also appreciating the talent displayed. Toga concluded with a compliment, admiring the beauty of the artwork. Uraraka admired the artwork, wishing she could look like that in real life. She expressed her curiosity about Todoroki's plans for his art, to which he replied that he hoped to become a professional artist one day, though he acknowledged the challenges that lay ahead. Midoriya encouraged him, praising his talent, which brought a slight smile to Todoroki's face. Ida then brought up an important topic, announcing that Midoriya would be participating in a karate tournament that Friday at school. He encouraged everyone to come and support him, suggesting it would be a good opportunity for them to bond. Momo hesitated, unsure of her availability, and Ishido echoed her uncertainty. Toga, however, was optimistic that they could attend, prompting Bakugu to sigh and say he would think about it. Uraraka suggested they give everyone time to decide, and Midoriya agreed, emphasizing that no one should feel pressured to attend. Ida nodded in agreement, and they moved on to other topics, enjoying their time together despite not all being close friends. When the bell rang, signaling the end of lunch, they prepared to return to their classrooms. Uraraka sat in the bleachers with Ida, joined by Todoroki, Ishido, and Toga. Unfortunately, Momo had after-school commitments, Kirishima was at football practice, and Bakugu was still absent. Ida expressed his curiosity about Midoriya's performance in battle, while Todoroki remarked on how surprising it was that someone as gentle as Midoriya could fight. Uraraka voiced her concern for Midoriya's safety, realizing she hadn't considered the risks before. Ishido reassured her, reminding her that if Midoriya was indeed a black belt, he would likely handle himself well. Uraraka sighed, acknowledging Ishido's point but still feeling anxious. Ida supported Ishido's view, noting that Midoriya's gentle nature didn't diminish his strength. Toga, feeling restless, expressed her boredom and disappointment at Bakugu's absence, while Ishido speculated that Bakugu might not show up at all. Uraraka tried to comfort Toga, suggesting that Bakugu had a fondness for her, which made Toga blush with hope. As the tournament announcer called for everyone's attention, excitement filled the air. The announcer introduced the competitors, and when Midoriya's name was called alongside Bakugu's, shock rippled through the audience. Ishido questioned Bakugu's fighting abilities, while Toga recalled a troubling memory of Bakugu's past injuries in a previous tournament. Fear gripped her as she worried about what might happen. Toga insisted they needed to stop Bakugu, but Ishido held her back, reminding her that Bakugu had made his own choice. Ida urged Toga to calm down, suggesting deep breaths would help. Toga, however, was frantic, convinced that Bakugu believed he was invincible. Todoroki reassured her of Bakugu's strength, while Uraraka hugged Toga tightly, promising that everything would be okay. Toga's breathing slowed, but her fear remained palpable as tears streamed down her cheeks. Uraraka, with a sorrowful smile, held Toga's hands and reminded her of the positive changes Bakugu had brought into her life, just as Midoriya had changed hers. 'Cause that's what love does to a person. Ishido smirked, causing everyone else to feel a bit flustered by her bold explanation of her feelings. She teased Uraraka about love, prompting Uraraka to blush in realization of her words. Uraraka quickly clarified that she meant liking someone as a person. Ishido laughed, clearly enjoying the moment. As everyone settled back into their seats, Toga began to calm down. Uraraka expressed her hope that they wouldn't have to fight each other, to which Toga agreed. Meanwhile, Midoriya was surprised to see Bakugu. Bakugu, however, was eager for a chance to prove himself. Midoriya, not wanting to fight his friend, reminded Bakugu of their friendship. The announcer called out the names for the first match, Kaiti Miyu against Katsuki Bakugu. Bakugu glanced at Midoriya before heading to the platform. As the matches progressed, Midoriya realized he might have to face Bakugu in the end, given their skills and backgrounds. When it was finally their turn, Bakugu warned Midoriya not to hold back. Midoriya, however, expressed his concern about Bakugu's past injuries, questioning if Bakugu truly wanted to fight. Bakugu insisted on a fair fight, dismissing Midoriya's concern. They exchanged intense looks before taking their stances in the ring. In the audience, Ishido sensed the tension, while Toga wished for Bakugu's safety. Uraraka watched Midoriya with worry, whispering encouragement to him. As the battle began, both fighters rushed at each other, exchanging quick punches and kicks, captivating the audience. Ida and Todoroki commented on their impressive speed and tactics, especially noting Bakugu's unexpected patience. As the fight continued, Bakugu realized Midoriya was holding back, which frustrated him. He landed a strong kick to Midoriya's stomach, pushing him back. They both breathed heavily, staring each other down. Bakugu demanded Midoriya to stop holding back, declaring he was no longer weak. Midoriya, gritting his teeth, expressed his concern for Bakugu's well-being and insisted he still considered him a friend. Bakugu, undeterred, demanded a real fight. Once they caught their breath, Midoriya agreed to fight seriously. The battle intensified, with both fighters becoming more precise and powerful. As the fight wore on, Their knuckles showed signs of wear from the relentless blows. The teachers attempted to stop the fight, but their efforts were in vain. As exhaustion set in, Bakugo's injuries began to take their toll. Uraraka and Toga watched in concern, realizing the fight needed to end soon. The two fighters continued, but their blows grew weaker until they both collapsed on stage, fainting simultaneously. The announcer, amazed by the outcome, declared it a draw. As the crowd rushed to them, Uraraka held Midoriya close, tears forming in her eyes. She insisted they needed to get them to the nurse's office or a hospital. Feeling helpless, she followed as they were carried away, determined to keep an eye on Midoriya for his safety. A week had passed since Midoriya's tournament with Bakugo. He was at home, healing from his injuries, enjoying a movie with his stepfather and mother. His mother had fallen asleep against Toshinori, who covered them with a blanket. Toshinori reminded Midoriya not to stay up too late. Midoriya asked for advice on making a girl happy, leading Toshinori to chuckle and suggest that attention and love were key. Midoriya confessed his feelings for a popular girl, feeling like a nobody in comparison. Toshinori encouraged him, stating there were no rules to love and to seize the opportunity when it arose. Midoriya expressed concern about potential hurt and disapproval from others. Toshinori reassured him that as long as they were happy, they should pursue their relationship and protect one another. As the movie credits rolled, Toshinori picked up Inko and carried her to their door. Before entering the room, Toshinori turned to Midoriya to share his final words. He encouraged Midoriya to do what makes him happy, expressing that it was what both he and Midoriya's mother would want. With that, he stepped inside and closed the door. Midoriya stood up and went to the kitchen to clean the popcorn bowl in the sink, reflecting on his father's words. Afterward, he returned to his room and lay on his bed, feeling warm and cozy under the covers. Just as he was about to drift off to sleep, a soft knocking sound startled him awake. He turned to see Uraraka standing outside his window. Quickly getting out of bed, he opened the window and whispered to her, careful not to wake his parents. Midoriya asked her what she was doing there so late, grabbing her hand, which felt icy from the cold outside. He urged her to come inside, expressing concern for her health. Once she climbed through the window, he closed and locked it behind her. He inquired if there was an emergency that brought her there at such a late hour. Uraraka admitted that she wanted to check on him and apologized if it seemed strange. Midoriya held her hand between his, trying to warm her up, assuring her that it wasn't weird but that she needed to take care of herself. Uraraka blushed and expressed her admiration for his sweet and caring nature, which flustered Midoriya. He noted that she wasn't acting like her usual self and asked if she was okay. She reminded him of a moment when he was going to kiss her, causing his cheeks to redden. He recalled that she had previously said she didn't want to pursue their relationship further, but as she inched closer, he panicked and tried to change the subject by pointing out a comic book. Uraraka stepped in front of him, making him back away until he stumbled onto his bed. She crawled over him, and he noticed a hint of sadness in her eyes. She pleaded with him not to deny her feelings and asked him to tell her if he liked her. Blushing, he confessed that he did like her. Uraraka then asked him to kiss her. After a moment of hesitation, he gently wrapped his arms around her and pulled her close, their lips finally meeting. They embraced, feeling warmth and passion for each other. As they pulled away, Midoriya apologized for his inexperience with kissing, to which Uraraka responded that she liked it. Just then she began to remove her shirt, causing Midoriya to panic and cover his eyes. She encouraged him to look, and after a moment of contemplation, he peeked through his fingers, surprised by her beauty. Uraraka playfully asked if he wanted to feel her, and he nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She guided his hands, and he gently touched her, causing her to blush and remind him to be careful. Midoriya, feeling overwhelmed, stopped and noticed her embarrassment. They continued to share tender moments, each expressing their feelings and desires while navigating their emotions. Eventually, they cuddled together in bed, pulling the covers over each other and settling into a comfortable embrace. Uraraka asked if they were now boyfriend and girlfriend, and Midoriya, brushing her hair gently, expressed his desire to be if that was what she wanted. She confirmed that it was, and they smiled at each other, sharing a sweet kiss. Midoriya felt grateful for their connection, and they enjoyed the warmth of each other's company as they drifted off to sleep. The next day, after their romantic encounter, they looked forward to what the future held for them. Since it was the weekend, Midoriya and Uraraka didn't have to worry about school. Midoriya's parents decided to go out together, leaving the house to him and Uraraka, which was something they were completely unaware of. Once his parents left, Midoriya let out a sigh of relief. He had been distracting them for quite a while, trying his best to keep them away from his room. Uraraka, being the heavy sleeper that she was, had not woken up yet. Midoriya thought about how stressful it had been and hoped he hadn't made it too obvious. While waiting for Uraraka to wake up, he decided to do his usual chores to get them out of the way. He swept and mopped the kitchen, washed any remaining dishes, and did his laundry. Once he finished these tasks, he decided to make breakfast for the two of them, starting with pancakes. As he cooked, he felt arms wrap around his torso, which brought a smile to his face. A groggy Uraraka nuzzled her face against his back and yawned, saying she felt good. Midoriya was glad to hear that. She playfully kissed the back of his neck, which sent shivers down his spine and made him blush. He found it hard to focus on the food as she teased him, but she pulled away with a pout when he expressed his distraction. Uraraka wanted to continue being playful, but Midoriya insisted he needed to concentrate on cooking. After he managed to escape her grasp and set the plates, Uraraka giggled and sat at the table, waiting for him to finish adding syrup and butter to their pancakes. She thanked him for making breakfast, and he replied that he just thought she might be hungry. Once he placed their plates on the table and sat beside her, she quickly kissed him softly. They both blushed and held each other tightly, feeling happier than they had in a long time. Their hearts raced as they shared a moment, pulling away from the kiss with flustered faces and smiles. Uraraka apologized for her impulsive kiss, explaining that she couldn't help herself. Midoriya reassured her that it was perfectly fine and that it was great. She found him cute when he was flustered, which made her like him even more. Midoriya felt a bit shy but was glad to hear it. Uraraka then realized they should eat their delicious food before it got cold. As they enjoyed their pancakes, they talked about how things were going for Uraraka at school. Midoriya, still her tutor, needed to ensure her grades were improving. Uraraka admitted that she had been struggling a bit with math since he had been away from school, but she felt she was doing better than before. Midoriya reminded her that they needed to study together when he returned to school, suggesting they could go to the library after classes. Uraraka nodded, acknowledging his concern. When Midoriya asked about Bakugo, she mentioned that he was fine physically but seemed upset about the outcome of their match. They didn't talk much anymore, but Toga had mentioned that Bakugo had been distant. Midoriya hoped they would both be okay in the end, and Uraraka agreed. As they finished their food, Uraraka tried to change the subject to something more positive. She suggested they play some video games, revealing that she had never played one before. Midoriya was surprised and excited to teach her. They discussed different types of games, and Uraraka expressed her eagerness to try one. They went to his room, where he showed her his large collection of video games. Midoriya shared his favorites, explaining that he loved story-based games. When Uraraka showed interest in one of the games, he explained its premise without giving away too much. She was excited to try it, and they started playing together. As she played, Midoriya watched her, enjoying the experience despite her inexperience. However, he soon received a text from his parents saying they were on their way home, and he regrettably informed Uraraka that she had to leave. They saved the game and walked to the doorway. Uraraka felt bad that he didn't get to play, but Midoriya reassured her that he enjoyed watching her. She smiled and blushed, giving him a small peck on the cheek. As they prepared to part, she asked if she should call him something special. Midoriya was curious about what she meant, and she shyly suggested names like baby or honey. He blushed but agreed, finding it cute. In a moment of affection, Midoriya expressed his feelings, telling her he loved her. He pulled her in for one last kiss before she had to leave. They embraced, wishing they could stay in that moment forever, wanting only to be together. Although Midoriya struggled to pull away from the kiss, he savored her taste. Uraraka expressed her love for him, and he reminded her to be safe on her way home, asking her to text him when she arrived. She promised she would, and as she left, memories of their time together flooded his mind. He wished he could relive those moments, feeling a happiness he had never experienced before, something he never thought he would feel. Amidst these joyful thoughts, he recalled a girl from his past, her painful words echoing in his mind, leaving him with a slight ache in his heart. He questioned whether he truly deserved this happiness. The next day, school was finally over. Midoriya and Uraraka were at the library, preparing for their long-awaited study session. Uraraka was not particularly excited about it, but she was glad to be spending time with Midoriya. She expressed her frustration with math, feeling inadequate compared to her peers. Midoriya reassured her that she was very smart, highlighting her strengths as a cheer squad leader and her improvement in history and English, subjects he sometimes struggled with himself. She was surprised to learn he had difficulties with schoolwork too. He took her hand and smiled, calling her an amazing girlfriend, which made her blush and her heart race. They exchanged quick smiles before organizing their study materials. Midoriya mentioned that someone else would be joining their study session, as a classmate had been struggling and needed help. Uraraka felt a twinge of disappointment at the change in plans but kept her feelings to herself, not wanting to seem possessive. After a while of waiting, Midoriya spotted Tsuyu Azui outside the library, kneeling down to observe a small frog in the rain. She waved at them as she approached, feeling a bit embarrassed for making them wait. Uraraka greeted her warmly, and Azui was surprised that Uraraka knew her name, given her popularity. They shared an awkward laugh, with Uraraka feeling a bit shy due to her emotions, while Azui struggled with conversation unless the topic interested her. Midoriya asked Azui to explain the subjects she found challenging, and she mentioned English and history. They decided to focus on those subjects together, allowing Midoriya to guide both of them. They finished the math portion quickly, as both Azui and Midoriya were knowledgeable in that area, and took a break afterward. Uraraka sighed, feeling overwhelmed by the pace, while Azui thanked her for her support. Midoriya pulled out some snacks from his backpack, munching on pretzels as he tried to engage Azui in conversation. He learned that she loved animals, especially frogs, and enjoyed drawing and reading comics. When he discovered that she liked Marvel comics, he excitedly shared his admiration for the Hulk. As their conversation continued, Uraraka felt increasingly left out, wishing she could contribute to the discussion. Jealousy crept in, and she stood up, searching for an excuse to step away. She announced her intention to look for books for their homework, but as she walked away, Midoriya sensed something was off. He stood up, intending to check on her, but instead mentioned he was going to the bathroom. He wandered through the library until he found her in a secluded corner, surrounded by bookshelves. He approached her, asking if she was all right. She nodded, her frown betraying her true feelings. Uraraka felt a bit tired from all the work she had been doing. Midoriya approached her, expressing his willingness to listen. He stepped closer and placed his hand on her shoulder, attempting to turn her in his direction, but she resisted. She hesitated, revealing her discomfort with how she looked. Midoriya pleaded with her not to feel that way, asking if he had done something wrong. As he tried to get closer, she resisted more, losing her balance and falling. In an attempt to steady herself, she grabbed onto Midoriya's tie, pulling him down with her. He landed beside her, concerned about her well-being as she rubbed the back of her head from the impact. He asked if she was all right and gently rubbed the spot where she felt pain. Once the discomfort faded, they both blushed, realizing how close they were. Uraraka stammered, trying to find her words, while Midoriya reassured her that he wasn't upset and suggested they return to the table. As he began to stand, she held onto his shirt tightly, wanting him to stay. She then expressed her desire for a kiss. Midoriya was taken aback, feeling the weight of the moment, especially since they were in public. However, her plea made him hesitate before leaning in closer. They shared a kiss, and in the warmth of the moment, Uraraka pulled him closer, but he soon pulled away, feeling overwhelmed by emotions. Uraraka blushed deeply, apologizing for her boldness. They both stood up, trying to regain their composure. Once they felt more normal, Midoriya asked her why she had walked away earlier, noticing she seemed off. Uraraka took a breath and admitted she felt jealous of Azui, explaining that she felt left out of their conversation and insecure about her own appearance. Midoriya placed a finger over her lips, smiling as he reassured her that she was silly for feeling that way. He expressed that she was all he wanted and that his feelings hadn't changed. He emphasized that he loved everything about her, which made her cheeks flush even more. She took his hand, reciprocating his feelings and expressing her happiness. With a lighter mood, Midoriya suggested they get back to studying, and Uraraka agreed. Outside Midoriya's house, Uraraka prepared herself for a serious conversation. The past few weeks had been strange, and she sensed something was troubling him. To address her concerns, she decided to speak with his parents. She had arranged for Midoriya and Ida to hang out, feeling it was necessary to have this discussion. Although it felt like she was going behind his back, she believed it was the only way to understand his sadness. After knocking on the door, it opened to reveal Midoriya's mother, Inko, who greeted her warmly. Uraraka inquired about Midoriya, but learned he was out with friends. She then asked if she could speak with Inko and Toshinori. Inko welcomed her inside, making her feel at home as Uraraka sat on the couch, waiting for them to join her. Once they were settled, Toshinori acknowledged that Uraraka wanted to talk about Midoriya and hoped he was treating her well. She confirmed that he always did. Inko excitedly guessed that Uraraka was seeking gift ideas for Midoriya's birthday, but Uraraka clarified that she wanted to know more about his past. Inko's expression changed, and she quickly excused herself, leaving the room. Toshinori sighed, indicating that this topic was sensitive for Inko. Uraraka felt guilty for bringing up something painful but remained seated, waiting patiently. After a few moments, Toshinori returned and sat down, ready to share what Inko wanted him to convey. He explained that a few years ago, before he entered the picture, Midoriya's biological father had been extremely cruel. At that time, Toshinori had been Midoriya's karate master, as well as Bakugu's. From the moment Toshinori first saw Inko, he felt a deep affection for her. Every time he encountered Izuku, he wished with all his heart that he could be the child she needed. Izuku attended karate classes to grow stronger, aiming to protect his mother, though Toshinori remained unaware of the true dangers they faced. He had no idea that the threats were as severe as they turned out to be. Izuku rubbed his eyes and rested his chin in his palm, visibly on the verge of tears but determined to hold back his emotions. Toshinori began to notice troubling signs. Izuku arrived at lessons more bruised than usual, and Inko appeared pale and frail, almost to the bone. They both looked utterly miserable. It was soon revealed that Izuku's father had been abusive and neglectful, leaving them with nowhere to turn. Toshinori's heart ached as he learned of the horrors they endured. His fists clenched tightly, knuckles turning white as he recalled the details. He discovered that Izuku's father had crossed unforgivable boundaries with Inko. The fury that consumed Toshinori was overwhelming. In his younger days, he had the strength to confront such threats, and he did not hesitate to confront Izuku's father, ensuring he faced justice. Now, he was behind bars, where he belonged. Uraraka expressed her regret for asking about Izuku's past, but Toshinori reassured her that curiosity about the one she loved was natural. He emphasized that there was more to Izuku's story, a deeper pain that had left him with a broken spirit. Toshinori believed that Uraraka might be the support Izuku needed, urging her to wait for him or to ask about Aya when he returned. He warned her that learning the full truth would be painful for both of them, especially for Izuku, and could lead him down a dark path. Uraraka nodded, understanding the weight of his words. Toshinori then mentioned that he would be heading to bed with Inko, who preferred not to sleep alone. As he left, Uraraka found herself deep in thought. She made a decisive choice and walked into Izuku's room, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. She resolved to love him unconditionally, no matter the circumstances. As she waited, the doorknob rattled, and Izuku opened the door, his face lighting up at the sight of her. He greeted her with surprise and joy, expressing how much he appreciated her presence. They settled on the bed together, and Uraraka inquired about his time with Ida. Izuku shared that they had a great time at the arcade and revealed he had a small gift for her, a keychain with a tiny pink bunny. He thought it would be perfect for her backpack, knowing her fondness for pink. As Uraraka accepted the gift, tears welled in her eyes, and she felt overwhelmed with emotion. Izuku panicked, worried that she might not like it, but she reassured him that she loved the bunny. Concerned, he held her close, gently brushing her hair as he sensed something was troubling her. Uraraka took a deep breath and asked him to tell her about Aya. Izuku's expression shifted to one of shock, and he trembled slightly as he gripped the bed covers. The mention of Aya brought back painful memories, and he hesitated, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. He finally began to share his story, revealing that it all started 3 years ago when his relationship with Aya was new and blossoming. It was a time of hope, just after his father had been imprisoned for his abusive behavior. He recalled how Aya had asked for respect and kindness, and he had been eager to please her. He had showered her with affection and gifts, wanting to make her happy regardless of the exhaustion from his long hours of work. But as time passed, her demands grew, and he found himself caught in a cycle of trying to appease her even when it felt wrong. One night, everything changed, and the memories of that time weighed heavily on him. The pain of his past lingered, shaping who he had become. As he prepared to share more, the tension in the room was palpable, both of them aware that the conversation would lead them down a difficult path. To be continued. At a party that Midoriya didn't really want to attend, he realized that his feelings for Aya had faded. He still wished for her happiness, but he no longer loved her. They found themselves alone in a room, and he felt it was time to express his feelings. Midoriya hesitated, wanting to talk about their relationship. Aya seemed impatient, urging him to get to the point. He stammered, unsure of how to convey his thoughts, ultimately admitting that he didn't think they should be together anymore. He still cared for her as a person, but he believed they would be happier apart. In that moment, Aya's demeanor shifted. She pushed him against the wall, and he felt uncomfortable, wishing she wouldn't. She made a bold statement about what men wanted, implying that it was the key to keeping him with her. As she crossed boundaries, he felt a surge of discomfort and tried to resist, expressing that he didn't want this and that she deserved better. Aya's reaction was harsh. She threatened to reveal his perceived shortcomings to their peers, suggesting that no one would believe him over her. Midoriya, wanting to avoid conflict, tried to maintain his distance. Afterward, he felt ashamed and thought that keeping quiet would help him cope, but the memories haunted him. He felt weak and betrayed, especially when, 2 weeks later, Aya confronted him outside school. It was raining heavily, and he was about to head home when he encountered her and her friends. She was still acting as if they were together. Midoriya attempted to explain that he wanted to go home, but Aya insisted he join her, blocking his path. When he tried to walk away, she lashed out, striking him hard enough to make him stumble. Blood trickled down his chin as he gritted his teeth, feeling the sting of her words as she belittled him. Despite his desire to leave, she continued to berate him, calling him names and asserting her superiority. Midoriya, determined to meet his mother, tried to walk away again, but she wouldn't let him go. In a fit of anger, she tackled him, unleashing a flurry of punches and kicks. He resisted the urge to fight back, enduring the pain as she left him hurt and alone in the mud. It was then he realized that she had never truly cared for him. She merely needed a target for her frustrations. After his parents learned about the incident, they decided to switch schools for his safety. Present day, Midoriya returned home, feeling lost and in pain. He reflected on the struggles he faced with both his father and Aya, realizing that in trying to avoid becoming like his father, he had lost his dignity. However, everything changed when he met Uraraka. He began to understand that the suffering he endured was not his fault and that he deserved happiness and strength. Uraraka reassured him that it was okay to be happy and strong, acknowledging the horrible things Aya had done to him. Midoriya, overwhelmed with emotion, questioned whether she truly believed in his strength. Uraraka affirmed her commitment to never hurt him and to stand by his side, which brought him comfort. As he broke down in tears, she held him close, allowing him to release the pain he had carried for so long. Anger bubbled within her for what Aya had done to someone as kind as Midoriya, and she vowed to give him the love he truly deserved. Once he began to calm down, they lay together in each other's arms. Midoriya asked if she could stay the night, and she gently caressed his hair, assuring him that she had planned to do so. After their heartfelt conversation, Midoriya felt a bit down, but Uraraka made it her mission to lift his spirits. She invited a few friends over, hoping to cheer him up. Kirishima and Ishido arrived, filling the house with laughter, followed by Todoroki, Momo, Ida, and Hatsum. Without needing to discuss Midoriya's situation, everyone showed up to support him. As the gathering continued, Kirishima pulled Midoriya aside to suggest a trip to the beach. Midoriya was hesitant, expressing that he wasn't really a beach person. Kirishima insisted it would be fun, but Midoriya remained reluctant, wanting to stay home instead. Kirishima looked at him incredulously, urging him to reconsider. Midoriya pondered what beach truly meant, feeling confused about the idea of sand in his pants and sunburns. Kirishima, exasperated, urged him to think about what girls typically wore at the beach. Midoriya hesitantly suggested bikinis, which made Kirishima smirk. After their discussion, they returned to the room and quickly decided to go to the beach together. Uraraka saw this as an opportunity to lift Midoriya's spirits after their earlier conversation. They gathered their belongings and Ida, with his impressive car, offered to pick everyone up. One by one, they filled the vehicle until it was packed, and soon they were on their way to the ocean. Midoriya and Uraraka found themselves sitting next to each other, their bodies pressed together due to the limited space. Uraraka apologized for any discomfort she might be causing him, to which Midoriya reassured her that it was fine. Ishido, leaning in closer, teased them about their proximity, suggesting that Uraraka could sit in Midoriya's lap. Both of them turned bashful at the idea, with Uraraka insisting she couldn't do that in front of their friends. Midoriya gulped nervously, and Ishido encouraged them to embrace their affection for one another. After a moment of hesitation, Uraraka adjusted herself until she was comfortably in his lap, making Midoriya's heart race at her cuteness. Kirishima jokingly asked why he was never allowed to sit in Midoriya's lap, to which Ishido playfully replied that he would crush her. Kirishima, feigning shock, insisted he was just pure muscle, and Ishido playfully flattered him, calling him a goofball. Ida announced their arrival, and Hatsum reminded everyone about Todoroki and Momo, prompting Ida to free them from the trunk. He apologized for the cramped space, and Momo mentioned that she had enjoyed reading a book during the ride. Todoroki proudly displayed his artwork, which made Momo blush and protest its embarrassing nature. The two dashed toward the beach, with Todoroki playfully chasing Momo, maintaining his usual stoic expression. Ida suggested they set up their equipment, and the group moved to the sand to lay out towels and a large umbrella for shade. After Hatsum expressed her boredom, she and Ida decided to go into the water, with Kirishima and Ishido eventually joining them, leaving Midoriya and Uraraka alone. Uraraka giggled nervously, complimenting Midoriya on how great he looked. He returned the compliment, and they both hesitated, unsure of what to say next. Summoning her courage, Uraraka suggested he take off his shirt for sunscreen application, which caught Midoriya off guard. She quickly clarified her intention, and he agreed, feeling grateful for her offer. As he turned his back to her, Uraraka applied sunscreen, initiating a conversation about their future. She asked if he liked kids, and he responded positively, sharing that he would be fine with any number. When she revealed her desire for a larger family, he expressed surprise but listened attentively as she explained her dream of having a big family. Uraraka's confidence shone through as she assured him she was sure about her feelings. Midoriya acknowledged the uncertainty of the future but felt a sense of reassurance from her words. He apologized for potentially dampening the mood, but before he could say more, Uraraka jumped into his lap, causing him to fall back into the sand. She kissed him softly, leaving him feeling warm and content. Uraraka reassured him that she understood his feelings and expressed her love for him, declaring that her heart and soul belonged to him. Midoriya smiled, appreciating her affection. As he became aware of their position, his heart raced even faster. Uraraka noticed his discomfort and suggested they cool off in the water together. As they made their way to the ocean, Midoriya's thoughts were consumed by Uraraka, and he found it hard to focus on anything else for the rest of their time at the beach. They spent the rest of the day with their friends until it got late, and finally decided to head home. Uraraka chose to stay the night with Midoriya, and they slept soundly together, dreaming of each other and the future ahead. After much planning and persuasion, The moment had arrived. Ashido had been working hard to organize a special evening for Uraraka and Midoriya by convincing her parents to allow the couple to use the hot springs they owned. Weeks had passed with the couple focused on studying and school activities, especially with the upcoming school festival. Midoriya and Uraraka were eager to help their classmates, especially Momo, who had been shouldering much of the responsibility. Recognizing their hard work, Ashido thought it would be a great idea for them to take a break and relax. Uraraka insisted that this little getaway was unnecessary, but Ashido, being her determined self, was set on giving them this opportunity. She decided to surprise them. As she entered one of the classrooms, she found Uraraka diligently painting a large canvas, with Midoriya assisting her. Uraraka asked about the color she needed for the lines, and Midoriya reminded her it was orange. As she focused on her painting, Midoriya smiled, noticing some paint on her cheek. He gently wiped it away with his thumb, causing Uraraka to blush. He complimented her cuteness, and she shyly thanked him. Just then, Ashido leaped onto Uraraka's back, startling her. Ashido greeted them playfully, and Uraraka expressed her surprise. Ashido brushed off her reaction and asked how she had been. After a brief exchange, Ashido presented them with tickets to the hot springs, having finally convinced her parents. Uraraka felt a bit guilty for Ashido's efforts, while Midoriya appreciated the gesture but insisted they didn't need the tickets. Ashido playfully urged them to take the tickets, shoving them into Uraraka's hands before sitting next to her. She offered to help with the painting, but Uraraka quickly declined, knowing Ashido's artistic skills were questionable. Midoriya was curious about Ashido's abilities, and Uraraka humorously explained that while she might not excel in art, she was a fantastic baker. They finished their painting and left it to dry before packing for their trip. The hot springs allowed overnight stays, and although they felt nervous about what the night might bring, they were excited to spend time together. Uraraka's mother entered the room, asking if she was ready for Ashido's place. After a brief exchange of love and reassurance, Uraraka left for the hot springs. The walk was short, and upon arriving, she spotted Midoriya waiting outside. She smiled and rushed towards him, jumping into his arms and showering his face with kisses, making him blush. He playfully reminded her about being in public, but she teased him, insisting he loved it. Once they entered the hot springs, they handed over their tickets and were led to a small room with their own personal hot spring. After the attendant left, Uraraka began to explore the room, admiring its charm. As they exchanged nervous glances, Uraraka's thoughts raced with excitement and anxiety about seeing Midoriya in a more revealing state. Meanwhile, Midoriya was equally flustered, caught up in his own thoughts. He suggested they get ready in the bathroom or the main room, and Uraraka agreed to either option. Midoriya decided to prepare in the main room while Uraraka took a moment to gather her composure in the bathroom. After a deep breath, she reassured herself to stay calm as she prepared to join him in the hot springs. As soon as they make eye contact, their faces turn red. Midoriya thinks to himself that she is so pretty. The couple sits together in the warm waters, both excited for what lies ahead. Midoriya turns to her, and she eagerly waits for him to speak. He hesitates, asking if she has any experience with intimacy. She blushes and softly nods, admitting she has a little experience, just enough to handle herself. Midoriya's gaze drifts away as he recalls a past experience that was not filled with love. Uraraka understands and gently holds his cheek, guiding his eyes back to hers. She reassures him that the past experience didn't count. Taking a deep breath, he admits he hasn't had any real experience. Uraraka smiles and kisses his cheek, asking if he would be okay with her taking the lead. He blushes and nods, feeling a rush of excitement. Without hesitation, she removes her towel, letting it float away in the water. Midoriya's heart races as he takes in the sight of her. He pulls her into a kiss, feeling a surge of affection as he holds her close. Their bodies press against each other, and he kisses down her neck, eliciting a soft reaction from her. She places her hands on his arms, allowing him to explore. Midoriya, wanting to savor the moment, begins to gently caress her, making her gasp softly. He pulls her closer, wanting to feel her warmth against him. As he continues, he finds himself lost in the moment, feeling a mix of emotions as they share this NTMT connection. Midoriya asks if she is ready, and in her flustered state, she nods. He gently pulls away, ensuring she is comfortable. She spreads her legs slightly, and he blushes at her openness. He takes his time, wanting to make sure they both enjoy this moment. As he moves closer, he is mindful of her reactions, wanting to ensure she feels good. The atmosphere becomes charged with excitement as they share this experience, both feeling the heat of the moment. Uraraka encourages him to go deeper, and he responds to her wishes, feeling a rush of pleasure. The warmth of the water surrounds them, and they become lost in their connection, feeling the intensity of their emotions. As they share this moment, Uraraka expresses her desire for more, and Midoriya, unable to resist, gives in to the passion of the moment. They both feel the overwhelming sensations of joy and connection, and as they reach a peak, the world around them fades away. Afterward, they share a tender moment, with Midoriya feeling flustered by Uraraka's playful actions. She smiles at him, and he can't help but blush. They both laugh and enjoy the warmth of each other's presence, feeling a deep bond. They express their love for one another, deciding to head back inside to cool off and enjoy their time together. Once inside, they change into comfortable robes and cuddle in the cool air, watching various shows on TV. They settle on a channel with Disney movies, slowly drifting off to sleep in each other's arms. Back at school, the couple faces new challenges as a festival approaches, along with Halloween. Despite the excitement, they notice the stares and whispers from classmates, which makes Midoriya protective of Uraraka. He stays by her side, only leaving her side during brief moments when she needs privacy. During lunchtime, their usual group chats, but they soon notice the attention from others in the cafeteria, who gossip and chuckle, focusing on their table. Momo comments on the strange atmosphere, sensing the tension surrounding them. The atmosphere felt quite ominous in the room. Todoroki acknowledged the tension, while Bakugo dismissed it, stating it wouldn't matter unless someone decided to cause trouble. Ida expressed his hope that it wouldn't come to that. Ashido turned her attention away from the crowd and looked over at Midoriya and Uraraka, curious about their recent trip. She asked how the hot springs were, and Hatsum chimed in, surprised that they had gone alone. Uraraka's face flushed as she quickly insisted that nothing happened and that it was just a normal, fun outing. Kirishima raised an eyebrow, intrigued by their responses. Midoriya glanced nervously at Bakugo, who was staring at him intently. Bakugo leaned in, questioning if nothing had really happened. Uraraka turned to them, both of their faces reddening. Bakugo smirked and leaned back, resting his feet on the table. Toga, with a playful tone, remarked on their apparent romance, which caused Ida to do a spit take, accidentally spraying Todoroki's drawing. Ida was horrified, apologizing profusely as Todoroki expressed his outrage over the ruined artwork. Momo tried to calm Todoroki down, suggesting he create another piece. Reluctantly, he agreed and returned to his drawing, while the conversation shifted back to the previous topic. Kirishima, eager to know more, asked how their outing had gone. Midoriya, feeling uncomfortable, wished to change the subject, but before he could, a wad of mashed potatoes unexpectedly hit Uraraka on the cheek. Laughter erupted from the cafeteria, and Uraraka felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her, tears welling in her eyes. Midoriya, witnessing her distress, felt a surge of anger and stood up, scanning the room for the culprit. A boy from the crowd stood up, smirking as he claimed responsibility. Midoriya approached him, determined to confront him. Uraraka tried to intervene, suggesting it might have been an accident, but the boy continued to insult her and the group. Midoriya, unable to hold back, kicked the boy down, silencing him. As the boy attempted to retaliate, Midoriya dodged and countered with a swift punch, knocking him out. He dragged the boy back to his table, demanding if anyone had anything to say about his actions. They all shook their heads, and he returned to his seat, where his friends looked at him in awe. He turned to Uraraka, who was still surprised, and gently cleaned the mashed potatoes from her cheek with a napkin, making her blush. Toga commented on the waste of food, while Hatsum argued that it was just cafeteria sludge. Bakugo remarked that Toga would eat anything, and Momo pointed out that everyone has at least one food they dislike. Bakugo noted that Toga only disliked onions, which led to a light-hearted debate about vegetables. Todoroki proudly announced that he had completed another drawing, this time of Uraraka as a superhero. She was thrilled and asked about her powers, to which Todoroki replied that anything she touched would float. The excitement in the room grew, and Bakugo suggested a drawing of Toga, while Uraraka playfully requested one of Midoriya showcasing his muscles for research purposes. Midoriya asked if he could keep the drawing, and Todoroki agreed, stating he only kept his drawings of Momo. As they admired the artwork, Momo smiled at Todoroki, who felt a slight blush creeping onto his cheeks. He admitted he had drawn it to cheer Uraraka up, and they continued their lunch until the bell rang. Despite the school's disapproval of their relationships, they remained determined to support one another. Kirishima decided to host a Halloween party, and everyone was excited to dress up. Midoriya stood outside the door, dressed in a ghost costume, feeling a bit childish. After a moment, he rang the doorbell, and Uraraka opened the door, laughter and music spilling out from inside. Midoriya was taken aback by her costume, and she welcomed him inside, relieved to see him. She mentioned feeling nervous around all the strangers and how Bakugo had been particularly difficult. Midoriya complimented her, and she returned the sentiment, pulling him into the house and closing the door behind them. Uraraka asked if he wanted to dance or eat, and he opted for food, leading them to the kitchen where Bakugo and Ishido were engaged in a lively argument. The argument itself wasn't particularly significant, but once it started, there was no stopping it. Midoriya and Uraraka decided to leave the others to it and happily enjoyed some chips and salsa. Ishido turned her attention to Midoriya, her face lighting up with excitement. She exclaimed that he had a cute costume, to which Midoriya replied that hers was cool too, asking if she was a werewolf. Ishido confirmed that she was, but then complained that Bakugo had stolen her idea. Bakugo scoffed, claiming it was an accident and that he hadn't even wanted to wear a costume, as Toga had made him. Uraraka noted that she hadn't seen Toga yet and wondered where she was. Just then, Toga appeared, giggling as she jumped onto Bakugo's arm, playfully asking if he missed her. Bakugo, flustered, demanded that she get off him, but Toga continued to cling to him, giggling as he blushed. Tokoyami, with his crow headpiece and black cloak, complimented everyone's costumes. His gaze fell on Toga and Uraraka, and a familiar girl with long green hair followed behind him, grabbing his hand. Azui expressed her concern for him, and Tokoyami explained that he had been contemplating deep thoughts about life and death until he noticed the cool costumes of some girls. Azui admired his depth, mentioning that a boy in a ghost costume had tutored her. Tokoyami's expression shifted to anger as he glared at Midoriya, accusing him of stealing his goddess of darkness. Midoriya panicked, insisting he wasn't the one, and Uraraka reassured Tokoyami that Midoriya was not like that. Azui smiled sweetly at Tokoyami, causing his cheeks to flush. Bakugo, feeling protective, pulled Toga closer, becoming defensive. Just then, Kirishima stumbled into the kitchen, announcing his presence in a drunken manner. He approached Ishido, getting down on one knee and pulling out a ring pop, declaring his desire to marry her. Ishido questioned how much he had been drinking, and Kirishima admitted it was a little, though he couldn't recall how much. Ishido suggested he take a nap first, to which he asked for a promise. She giggled and wrapped her pinky around his, assuring him she would. With that, Kirishima promptly passed out on her lap. Midoriya wondered who would tell him what he had done the next day, and Bakugo eagerly volunteered. Ishido speculated about where he had gotten the ring pop, while Uraraka suggested it was for himself as a snack. The girls found it hard to believe Kirishima didn't like sweets, and they all chuckled together. As the party continued, everyone engaged in conversation, including Azui and Tokoyami, whom they invited to their lunch table at school. After a while, Midoriya and Uraraka decided to leave together and began their journey home. Uraraka asked if he had fun, and Midoriya surprisingly admitted that he did, feeling more comfortable with everyone he knew in the same room. Uraraka smiled and held his hand as they walked. Midoriya noticed a hint of discomfort on her face and asked what was wrong. She explained that her heels were a bit rough to wear. Without hesitation, he removed his ghost costume and handed it to her before picking her up in his arms. He chided her for not mentioning it earlier, causing her to blush and hide her face in the cloak. As he carried her, she felt safe and warm against him, realizing in that moment that she was truly in love. Once they reached her house, he unlocked the door and entered quietly, careful not to wake her parents. He carried her to the couch and then went to the kitchen to fill a small tub with warm water. After bringing it back, he gently took off her shoes and placed her feet in the water, massaging them as he did so. Uraraka insisted he didn't have to do all of this, but Midoriya replied that he wanted to protect what they had. He expressed that it might seem like he was doing too much, but it felt right to him. Her face showed guilt as she softly rubbed his cheek, apologizing if she seemed ungrateful and affirming her love for everything he did for her. Midoriya assured her that he loved everything she did for him as well. When she downplayed her contributions, he pointed out that she had dressed up for him that night. She blushed, and he noted how obvious it was that she liked to look attractive for him, acknowledging the effort she put into it. Her cheeks flushed as her heart raced, and Midoriya admitted it was difficult to keep his hands off her. He also reminded her of the times she had helped him when he was at his weakest, emphasizing that she had done more than she realized. And no one has really done that for him. His parents are great, and he loves them, but this is different. He feels an overwhelming affection for her. Uraraka places her hands on his cheeks, making him look up into her eyes. She pulls him in close, and this small amount of affection makes him unable to resist. He leans over her on the couch, sharing a deeper kiss. Their kisses are slow and loving, and they share a gentle connection. He softly caresses her arm but then quickly pulls away, regretting the action. Midoriya thinks he should probably go, not wanting to disrespect her parents. Uraraka pouts and pulls him closer, asking him not to leave. She playfully slides her thigh against his hip, encouraging him to kiss her again. He struggles to pull away but manages to do so successfully. He comments on how she is being difficult, and she pouts a bit more before finally accepting his decision. She asks him to text her when he gets home, teasing that she will send him some nice pictures in her costume. He agrees, feeling a bit flustered. They say their goodbyes at the door, sharing a small kiss. He reminds her not to forget her homework, promising to remind her. Finally, the long-awaited festival has arrived, and Midoriya and Uraraka have been planning their own date. They feel it is well-deserved after working hard to help with the decorations and signs for the stalls. It is a chilly night, and the trees are adorned with glistening water droplets. Uraraka stands beneath one, admiring the beautiful colors of the festival reflecting off the droplets. As she waits for Midoriya, she decides to search for him since he seems to be running late. Midoriya is indeed late, as his mother insisted on cleaning his kimono for the occasion. He tries to navigate through the crowd, politely inching between people. However, he accidentally collides with someone and falls to the ground, landing on a nearby stand and scattering a basket of decorative cherry blossoms. He winces at the impact but quickly starts to gather the plastic flowers when he hears a familiar voice. Uraraka apologizes for the incident, and Midoriya insists that it was his fault. They glance at each other and blush, feeling a familiar attraction as they notice each other's attire. Uraraka quickly stands and hides behind a small toy ball she is holding, greeting him shyly. He shakes his head, bringing himself back to the moment, and helps put the flowers back into the basket with her assistance. Once the situation is resolved, he notices a small tug at his kimono and turns to see Uraraka's concerned expression. She asks if she hurt him, and he reassures her that it was unintentional and that he will be fine. They begin to walk around the festival until they reach a secluded area of trees. Midoriya looks around to see where everyone's focus is before turning to Uraraka, who is curious about his intentions. He admits he needs to do something with her quickly. She tilts her head in curiosity, but before she can respond, he gently guides her into the small forest area. He leans in to kiss her, causing her to drop the toy ball in surprise. She pulls away, blushing and expressing concern about being seen. Midoriya steps back, scratching the back of his head, realizing she is right and admitting it is difficult to resist her. After a moment of thought, Uraraka feels flustered and recalls a similar moment from a Halloween party. Unable to meet his gaze, she looks away nervously. As he moves closer, He lifts her chin, and they share a passionate kiss, deepening their connection. Midoriya compliments her beauty, and they embrace, feeling the warmth of each other. The atmosphere around them is filled with excitement and anticipation as they share this special moment together. She held onto his hair, letting out a soft sound of pleasure. Uraraka felt overwhelmed with emotion, expressing her excitement in a breathless manner. He continued to move with her, striving to bring her as much joy as possible until she finally reached her peak. Afterward, he slowed down, smiling through his heavy breathing. He asked if she wanted to help him finish, and she blushed, nodding in response. He gently placed her back on the ground, and she knelt down, playfully engaging with him. He placed his hands on the back of her head as she expertly maneuvered around him. The sensations became too intense for him to contain, and he pushed forward slightly, grunting softly. She accepted this, continuing to move with him until he reached his climax. Afterward, she pulled away for a moment, a small trace of what had happened lingering at the corner of her mouth. They exchanged tired but satisfied glances. He apologized for being a bit rough, and she blushed, admitting she liked it. This made him flustered as he adjusted his kimono, then knelt to help her with hers. She remarked on how crazy they were for what they had done, and he chuckled while wiping the trace from her lip, agreeing that they might be a bit wild but that he enjoyed it. She smiled back, sharing her own feelings of enjoyment. As they stood, Uraraka went to retrieve her small ball. He asked where she had gotten it, and she smiled, stretching out her arms as if to hand it to him. She explained that she had won it for him while playing a game. Touched by her thoughtfulness, he gratefully accepted the ball, promising to keep it forever. She suggested they sneak out, noting that people would think they were strange if they were seen coming out of the trees. He agreed, and they carefully made their way to the edge of the forest, looking around before leaping out. Suddenly, Bakugu's voice cut through the air, questioning what they had been doing in the trees. The couple turned to see Bakugu and Toga together, their eyes widening in surprise. They quickly tried to act natural, scrambling to come up with a believable excuse. Uraraka stammered, and Midoriya blurted out that they had seen a bird that was hurt and needed help. Toga squeaked, drawing everyone's attention as she teased them about their actions, suggesting they had been up to something more NTMT. Their faces turned bright red, and they hurried away, with Uraraka suggesting they go to her place. Midoriya eagerly agreed. The holidays had finally passed, and Christmas was enjoyable for most families. As the cold weather transitioned to warmer seasons, the much-anticipated field trip to Hawaii approached. It was nearly a tradition for the seniors to embark on this journey as their final year of high school drew to a close. Almost all of Class 1A was excited for the trip, making their way to school to gather at the designated spot with the school buses ready to take them to the cruise ship. Uraraka arrived and quickly spotted Midoriya and Ishido among the crowd. She expressed her relief at finding them, having worried it would take longer. Ishido mentioned they had been searching for Kirishima and Ida for ages. Midoriya took Uraraka's hand, suggesting they continue their search together. After a while, a loud commotion caught their attention, with a crowd chanting about a fight. They rushed over to find Bakugu and another boy exchanging punches, with Kirishima and another student attempting to separate them. Just before they were fully pulled apart, Bakugu spat in the boy's face, clearly escalating the situation. Kirishima urged Bakugu to calm down, while Bakugu insisted the other boy had provoked him. A teacher arrived to defuse the situation, and once things settled, Ishido playfully punched Bakugu on the head, causing him to grunt in pain. He reacted angrily, questioning her actions, while Ishido scolded him for potentially getting Kirishima into trouble. Kirishima intervened, suggesting they all take a breather. Bakugu retorted, and Ishido attempted to retaliate, but Kirishima quickly lifted her off the ground, placing her over his shoulder. She protested, wanting to confront Bakugu, but Kirishima reassured her to calm down. After a moment, he set her back down, and she pouted, looking adorable in her frustration. He chuckled and patted her head, making her blush. Midoriya asked what had happened, and Kirishima admitted he had no idea, just finding Bakugu being reckless. Bakugu threatened Kirishima, but he laughed it off. Just then Ida, Todoroki, Momo, and Toga joined them. Toga noticed a bit of blood on Bakugu's head and took out a disinfectant wipe, gently dabbing at it, which he ignored. Todoroki inquired about the commotion, and Uraraka explained that Bakugu had gotten into a fight, which had inadvertently helped them find him and Kirishima. Momo confirmed their bus assignment, and Todoroki expressed relief that he and Momo were not separated. Momo blushed and smiled, confirming their relationship, which surprised Uraraka and the others, who had not realized they were a couple. Uraraka smiled at Midoriya, acknowledging her recent distraction. Midoriya felt a blush creep onto his cheeks as he agreed with her. Toga, with a playful tone, remarked on their distraction, causing Midoriya and Uraraka to exchange wide-eyed glances before they laughed nervously. Bakugu, not one to hold back, told Toga to be quiet, to which she responded cheerfully. One of the bus drivers called for everyone's attention, instructing the students assigned to bus 109 to line up and board the bus. The students complied, forming a line and gradually entering their assigned buses. They settled together in the back. Ida expressed his excitement about the trip, while Momo shared her eagerness to see the beautiful ocean scenery. Uraraka echoed her sentiments, revealing her love for the ocean. Kirishima, however, joked about sea demons, prompting Midoriya to ask for clarification. Ashido chimed in, teasing Kirishima about his cautiousness regarding the ocean. Kirishima insisted he was not afraid, but Bakugu challenged him, questioning why he would come if he was scared. Toga playfully encouraged Kirishima to admit his fears, leading him to plead with his friends to stop teasing him. As laughter filled the bus, Ashido comforted Kirishima, calling him her big strong man, which made him beam with happiness. The bus driver went over the usual safety precautions while the conversation continued. Once finished, she began the drive to the docks. Someone in the back called out for the radio to be turned on, and the driver smiled at the students through the mirror, playing a station that she knew they would enjoy. A familiar song filled the bus, bringing smiles to the faces of the students. Ashido exclaimed with excitement upon recognizing Billy. As soon as the song started playing, Uraraka, Midoriya, Kirishima, and Ashido began to groove to the rhythm, bobbing their heads and dancing. Ida, Momo, and Todoroki, unfamiliar with the tune, exchanged amused glances, smiling at their friends' silly antics. Ashido sang about a little dancer who came to her door, while Uraraka chimed in about her little angel. Midoriya followed with lyrics about a license for love, and Kirishima added a line about praying for help if it expired. Suddenly, Bakugu joined in, surprisingly in sync and on pitch, belting out his part with enthusiasm. Toga added her cheerful voice to the mix, singing about a rebel yell. Although everyone was taken aback by Bakugu's unexpected singing talent, they shrugged it off and continued to enjoy the song, filling the bus with their voices. As they arrived at the docks, they hopped off the bus, stretching after the long ride. They were greeted by a large cruise ship waiting for them. Uraraka took Midoriya's hand and smiled, ready for their adventure to Hawaii. The sun shone brightly on the ship, where many passengers were swimming, sunbathing, or chatting with friends. Midoriya found himself lost in thought, contemplating his feelings for Uraraka and whether he should ask her a significant question soon. Ever since Kirishima's public confession to Ashido, he had been reflecting on their future together. While he pondered, a boy with yellow hair and a striking black streak approached his table. Kaminari asked if the seat was taken, and Midoriya shook his head, inviting him to sit. Kaminari introduced himself while sipping a vanilla milkshake. Midoriya acknowledged their shared class, and Kaminari's eyes widened in realization. He commented on the rumors about Midoriya dating the attractive cheerleader, Uraraka. Midoriya confirmed their relationship, feeling a mix of pride and disbelief at how lucky he felt. Kaminari remarked on Uraraka's beauty, and Midoriya agreed, feeling a bit self-conscious. They both shared their thoughts about their crushes, feeling warmth in their hearts. Midoriya asked Kaminari when he realized he loved his girl, but Kaminari admitted he wasn't sure if it was love yet, just that he enjoyed being around her. Midoriya encouraged Kaminari to give himself some credit, and they shared a laugh over their situations. Kaminari then revealed that his interest was Kyoka Jairu, a girl who was hard of hearing but played guitar beautifully. Midoriya was impressed, and Kaminari shared how he learned to communicate with her, which made her more talkative. They both hoped for the best in their relationships. Just then, a dark-haired girl approached, clearly upset. Kaminari playfully teased her, and she expressed her frustration through animated gestures. Despite her anger, it was evident she cared for him. After a brief exchange, she ran off, embarrassed, and Kaminari laughed, saying he had to go after her. Midoriya wished him well, and Kaminari left to find Jiraiya. Once Kaminari was out of sight, Midoriya made his way to the rooms on the ship. He knocked on door 304 and Uraraka opened it with a smile, greeting him with a kiss. She was pleasantly surprised to see him and invited him inside. As the door closed, Midoriya took her hands and looked into her eyes, causing her to feel a hint of worry as the atmosphere shifted. Uraraka asked if something was wrong, fearing he might be breaking up with her. Midoriya quickly reassured her, shaking his head and cupping her cheeks as he kissed her gently. She felt relieved but remained cautious, wanting to know what was on his mind. Taking a deep breath, Midoriya expressed his happiness with her and his desire for a lasting relationship. He shared how much he wanted to be with her forever, emphasizing her beauty, intelligence, and kindness. The moment was charged with emotion as he prepared to ask the question that weighed heavily on his heart. Maybe this was a silly idea, considering they were still quite young and hadn't even moved in together yet. He pulled out a small box from his pocket, revealing a small plastic ring adorned with fake pink sapphires. Uraraka covered her mouth in disbelief, tears of overwhelming happiness filling her eyes as she looked back at Midoriya. He nervously asked if she would accept it, acknowledging that it was a modest ring but promising he would always cherish her. In a burst of joy, she jumped into his arms and kissed him deeply, pulling away with a sniffle to affirm her acceptance. They both shared a smile, and he slid the ring onto her finger. She playfully remarked on their foolishness, and he chuckled, kissing her cheek, agreeing that their happiness was what mattered most. Midoriya sat outside on one of the lounge chairs of the ship, enjoying the cool breeze as he worked on his homework, the night air refreshing. His papers rested on his crossed legs as he focused on his writing. After a while, Uraraka, having searched the ship for him, finally spotted him and approached, glancing at his work. She expressed surprise that he hadn't finished yet, and he nervously explained that he had been helping her and had only just started on his own work. She apologized for interrupting, but he quickly insisted she didn't have to leave. Embarrassed, he apologized for raising his voice, and she smiled, sitting beside him on another lounge chair. As she settled down, he returned her smile and resumed his work until a thought crossed his mind. He lifted his head and mentioned that she hadn't shared much about herself in detail. She tilted her head in curiosity, prompting him to express his desire to know more, especially since they were practically engaged. Her cheeks flushed as she agreed, asking what he wanted to know about his future wife. She left a gentle kiss on his lips, and he felt his heart race with joy. He suggested she share what she was like as a child. She thought for a moment before sharing that she had been very shy at first but gradually gained confidence from her father. Many people liked her for it, and she often found herself surrounded by the popular crowd, despite her family's modest means. Midoriya noted that it seemed she had always been in the spotlight, to which she replied that she never truly desired it. While she had met many nice people, she preferred a quieter life. Most of the boys she dated were not like that. They wanted to party and drink, which didn't suit her. She mentioned that Bakugo had been an exception due to his good heart, but he struggled with his own issues. She believed in helping others, but there were moments when one had to let others learn on their own. Midoriya nodded in agreement, acknowledging the difficult truth. She expressed her gratitude for meeting him, finding it amusing that he had known Katsuki as well. They both had endured relationships that caused them pain. He agreed, marveling at how the world worked. They shared a moment of silence, gazing into each other's eyes before Uraraka shyly asked if there was anything he was hiding from her. He paused, considering his response, and eventually admitted there was one thing, though it wasn't pleasant. He placed his papers aside and recounted the incident with Aya, revealing how she had hurt him badly, leading to a hospital visit. He explained that he had been fueled by adrenaline and anger, feeling an unfamiliar urge to hurt her. Uraraka took his hand, expressing her sorrow for not being there for him. His surprise at her response quickly shifted to warmth, and he chuckled softly, reassuring her that he would never act that way toward her because of his love for her. She playfully dismissed his worries, reminding him that Aya had given him every reason to dislike her, while she would not try to drive him crazy. Midoriya wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her closer. They shared a tender moment, and as he leaned in to kiss her deeply, she playfully interrupted, reminding him of his homework. He blushed, frowning at the interruption, and tried to persuade her that a little distraction might help him think better. She rolled her eyes and stood up, teasing him about being too distracting. As she walked away, he attempted to pull her back, but she giggled and evaded his grasp, leaving him to slump back on the lounge chair, playfully begging her to return. She teased him about his puppy dog eyes, leaving the atmosphere light and filled with affection. "You have work to do." Midoriya requested a kiss before leaving, but Uraraka playfully refused. He sighed dramatically, and she expressed her love and wished him good luck with his work. Midoriya reciprocated her feelings and reminded her to pack for tomorrow. With a cheerful goodbye, she left, and he returned to his work, determined to finish it so he could enjoy his vacation with friends. The ship had just finished docking at its station, and all the students were buzzing with excitement for the trip ahead. An entire week of relaxation and fun awaited them, and they were eager to explore their new surroundings and bond with each other. As everyone exited the ship, Mr. Aizawa gathered his students to guide them to their hotel rooms. He instructed everyone to follow him closely and keep an eye on any classmates who might wander off. As he continued his speech, Azui and Tokoyami, wearing his crow mask, approached Uraraka and Midoriya. Azui suggested that it would be good to stick together, and Uraraka turned her attention to Tokoyami, curious about his mask. He explained it was to protect his complexion from the sun's rays and added that it looked cool. Midoriya enthusiastically agreed, and Tokoyami struck a pose, making Midoriya even more impressed. The girls giggled at the situation as they followed Aizawa until the tour concluded, granting them freedom to explore. Kirishima exclaimed with excitement, eager to have fun, and Mina shouted about going to the beach. The two raced off to prepare for their chosen activities. Midoriya and Uraraka approached Ida and Hatsum, who had found each other after disembarking. They exchanged greetings, and Uraraka inquired about their plans. Hatsum shared that they were going scuba diving for research, while Ida expressed his excitement about seeing the aquatic life in Hawaiian waters. Tokoyami and Azui decided to join them for the scuba diving adventure. Midoriya and Uraraka looked around and noticed that everyone else had made plans. Uraraka took Midoriya's hand, feeling a rush of joy and secretly hoping for some time alone together. She asked what they should do, and he suggested building a sandcastle and searching for seashells. She agreed enthusiastically and went to get ready, while he prepared as well. They ventured out to the sandy shores, and as Uraraka walked, her mind wandered to thoughts of the fun they would have. Distracted, she accidentally bumped into someone and fell to the ground. She winced in pain and looked up to see the girl who had bumped into her. The girl immediately apologized and offered her hand to help Uraraka up, who graciously accepted. After standing, Uraraka noticed the girl's striking beauty, with long red hair and glistening hazel eyes. The girl wore a school uniform that Uraraka recognized. Curious, Uraraka asked if the girl was from Japan, and the girl confirmed she was from South Blossom, on a field trip. Uraraka mentioned that her boyfriend used to attend that school, and the girl seemed to react nervously upon hearing Midoriya's name. Concerned, Uraraka asked if she was okay, but the girl, looking pale, quickly apologized and ran away, leaving Uraraka confused. Shaking off the awkward encounter, Uraraka made her way to the beach, where she found Midoriya happily building a sandcastle. He noticed her and waved her over with a big smile. As she sat beside him, he quickly noticed her distressed expression and asked if she was all right. She focused on the sandcastle and recounted the strange encounter with the girl, expressing her confusion about the apology. Midoriya listened intently as she shared that the girl mentioned attending his old school. As Uraraka connected the dots in her mind, she felt a sinking feeling as she realized the girl's nervousness had started when she mentioned Midoriya. She turned to him and asked what Aya looked like. Midoriya paused, pondering her question, and then his own realization hit him. He described Aya, noting her long red hair and hazel eyes. To be continued. Midoriya had been cooped up in his room for a couple of days. After discovering the truth about Aya, he was too afraid of encountering her during his trip. Memories of her began to fester in his mind, memories he wished he could erase completely. He had locked his door and refused to take any food or water, consumed by pain and neglecting his own health. This caused Uraraka to worry deeply. She continuously checked on him, trying many times to persuade him to let her in, but her efforts always faltered. Uraraka pleaded with him, expressing her desire to spend time together, emphasizing that this might be their only chance. Silence was her only response. She continued to implore him, her voice filled with concern, expressing how scared she was for him. Midoriya responded softly, revealing his emotional state. Hearing the sorrow in his voice made Uraraka's heart ache for him. She tried her best to speak gently, knowing this was the first time he had opened up even a little, and she wanted to make the most of it. She acknowledged his pain, admitting that she couldn't fully understand what he had gone through, but she offered her support, asking him to let her hold him in silence. After a few quiet moments, she heard the doorknob rattling, and relief washed over her. As soon as the door opened, she threw herself into his arms, holding him tightly, afraid to let go. He slowly wrapped his arms around her waist, tightening his grip as he held her close. Once they finished their embrace, Uraraka took a good look at him. His hair was unkempt, and it was clear he hadn't showered in a while. His eyes looked pale and tired, and the redness beneath his lids was evident. Overcome with emotion, Uraraka began to cry for him, gently caressing his cheek, hoping her presence would bring him some comfort. Midoriya apologized softly, and she shook her head, reassuring him that it was okay. She led him to the bathroom, preparing a bath for both of them. Once the tub was full, they removed their clothes and stepped into the warm water together. As she began to scrub soap into his hair, he sat still, staring down into the soapy water. He expressed his discomfort with a part of himself, revealing his feelings of weakness. Uraraka responded by affirming her love for every part of him, regardless of how he felt. She carefully washed the soap out of his hair and began to clean his body, and he looked at her with a sense of love and gratitude, surprised to have found someone who accepted him fully. She reminded him of his strength, explaining that even the strongest people have weaknesses. She offered her support, just as she knew he would help her with hers. Though his expression remained tired, his actions spoke volumes as he pulled her into his arms, sharing a tender kiss. She returned the kiss, wrapping her arms around his shoulders, longing for this connection. It felt like forever since they had shared such a moment, and being in his arms was all she desired. Their mutual affection meant everything to both of them. As they pulled away, they gazed deeply into each other's eyes. Midoriya expressed his desire to enjoy the rest of their time together, stating that even if he encountered Aya, he wanted to face those challenges head-on with her by his side. Uraraka reassured him that she would be there, no matter what happened. They continued to bathe until they were both clean, then dried off and changed into their sleep attire. Uraraka quickly called for food to be sent to their room. Midoriya hesitated, unsure if he wanted to eat, but she insisted, determined not to let him starve himself. He blushed and agreed. When the food arrived, Uraraka prepared the trays and placed them on the bed. They turned on the TV and began to relax while eating. Midoriya started to nibble at his food, but as his hunger grew, he quickly devoured his plate of steak and mashed potatoes, savoring every bite. Uraraka smiled, pleased to see him eating. After finishing their meals, she took the trays back to the stand and cuddled up to him. She remarked that he looked much better already and urged him not to put himself through that again. He nodded in agreement, hugging her close and acknowledging that he had worried her. He promised it wouldn't happen again and apologized for being selfish. Uraraka reassured him that she was there for him. As they settled into bed, she snuggled against his bare chest, feeling his warmth envelop her like a blanket. Sleepiness began to take over them both. Midoriya asked if she could sing, expressing his fondness for her voice. Uraraka laughed softly, unsure of her singing ability but willing to try. She recalled a song her mother used to sing to her as a child, one that wasn't a well-known lullaby. When Midoriya asked for the name, she giggled and blushed, revealing it was called Ice Cream, a fitting title since they both shared a love for sweets. Encouraged, Midoriya asked her to sing it, and she prepared her voice. Though it wasn't perfect, she poured her heart into the song, memories flooding back of how it had calmed her during difficult times. To her, her voice didn't compare to the way her mother sang this song. But to Midoriya, it was the most beautiful sound. As she sang, they both slowly drifted off to sleep. 5 hours later, knocks at the door jolted Midoriya awake. He glanced at the time, 4:32 a.m. He muttered to himself about who could be at the door so early, suspecting it might be Kirishima acting wild or, worse, his mother. He sighed, feeling too tired for any of it. As he pulled on a pair of jeans and a shirt, he walked over to the door and opened it. He started to speak, expecting Kirishima, but froze, his eyes widening in shock. Aya stood there, greeting him. Midoriya tried to keep his voice down for Uraraka's sake, adopting a serious tone. He asked what she wanted. Aya replied that she wanted to talk. He hesitated, expressing his reluctance. She held out a bag and nervously smiled, saying she brought snacks. Midoriya questioned how snacks could fix anything and began to shut the door, but Aya quickly placed her foot in the way, pleading for a chance to explain herself and suggesting they go to the park nearby. Frustrated, he glanced at Uraraka, who looked so peaceful in her sleep. He didn't want to trouble her but felt compelled to hear Aya out. He sighed and agreed to step outside, closing the door behind him. He walked over to Uraraka, kissing her head gently and promising to return. As he followed Aya to the park, they crossed the street, the headlights of passing cars illuminating the area. They sat on a nearby bench, and Midoriya kept as much distance as possible. Aya remarked that he seemed different, perhaps taller. He attributed it to being with someone who cared. Her expression shifted, revealing the pain from his words, but she managed a sad smile, insisting that she cared. Midoriya responded that maybe she did now, but it hadn't always been that way, and it mattered more back then. Aya acknowledged his feelings, stating she was trying to do better, having sought therapy and working on herself. Midoriya felt a mix of emotions, struggling to remain calm as he expressed that he hadn't seen any change in her. He recalled the pain and manipulation from their past, remembering how she had tormented him when he needed love the most. Aya clenched her fists, acknowledging her past mistakes but insisting she cared deeply for him and would never hurt him again. Midoriya interrupted her, revealing the worst part of it all. He had thought it was his fault and had not realized that being hurt was wrong until he met Uraraka. He wiped away tears, expressing his desire to be a strong man for her, tired of being a punching bag for everyone. Desperation filled Aya's face as she moved closer, grabbing his arm and declaring that she wanted to be with him again, promising to be better this time. Midoriya was taken aback, pulling away and standing up, unable to contain his emotions any longer. He exclaimed his disbelief at her request, recalling the pain she had caused him and how she had taken everything from him. Aya stammered, but Midoriya insisted that it would never happen. He turned away, feeling his heart race and struggling to breathe. Once he calmed down, he faced her again, stating that he could never leave Uraraka, especially not for her. As he began to walk away, Aya's anger flared. She stood up and grabbed his arm, accusing him of being the monster for not caring about her changes. He demanded she let go, managing to pull away but stumbling into the street. A car horn blared as he turned to see headlights approaching. The vehicle struck him, sending him rolling over the windshield before he fell to the ground, incapacitated. Aya stood in shock, realizing the gravity of her actions. Panicking, she fell to the ground as a loud scream pierced the air. Looking up, she saw Uraraka rushing toward Midoriya, kneeling by his side and holding him in her arms. "Izuku, open your eyes." Uraraka cried hard, pressing her forehead against his, desperate for him to respond. She pleaded with him, hoping against hope that he would open his eyes. The driver of the car exited and informed her that the ambulance was on its way, but her focus remained solely on Midoriya's breathing. She prayed fervently that he would continue to breathe. As soon as the ambulance arrived, they carefully placed Midoriya on a stretcher and loaded him into the vehicle as quickly as possible. Uraraka called his parents and their friends, explaining the situation while staying by his side. She had left Aya behind, wanting her to stay far away from Midoriya. Despite her anger, all her attention was on him. When they reached the hospital, Midoriya was taken into a room. Uraraka wasn't allowed to enter, so she paced the halls near his door, hoping and praying for his recovery. She wished with every fiber of her being that he would be okay. Fortunately, she wouldn't have to spend the night alone. Their friends arrived quickly, offering her comforting embraces and sharing their own worries for their beloved friend. Kirishima expressed his concern, fearing the worst for Midoriya. Toga tried to reassure everyone, while Hatsum pointed out the harsh reality that anything could happen. Bakugo gritted his teeth, frustrated that Midoriya had left the room and trusted someone he shouldn't have. Ashido intervened, reminding everyone that Uraraka was already worried enough. Everyone turned to look at Uraraka, who was hunched over, tears falling onto her knees. She remained silent, her eyes reflecting the same emptiness that Midoriya had shown when he first learned of Aya's presence. But for her, this pain was different. It was the fear of losing the one she loved most. Most of the group fell silent, but Ida knelt in front of her, lifting her chin to meet her gaze. He smiled gently, reassuring her. He reminded her that although he didn't know Midoriya as well as she did, he believed in his strength and that he would be okay. Uraraka broke down, her breathing becoming difficult as she called out his name, clutching her chest in anguish. As she cried, her friends surrounded her, sharing in her sorrow, while Bakugo, Toga, and Hatsum remained quiet. Hours passed, and one by one, they sank into their chairs and fell asleep. Their rest was interrupted when Uraraka felt a gentle shaking. As her groggy eyelids fluttered open, she saw a female doctor standing before her. The doctor informed her that Midoriya was awake, but only for a short time, as his body needed more rest. He had a fractured leg and several other injuries, but he would be okay with time. Uraraka quickly rubbed her eyes and stood up, eager to see him. The doctor smiled and led her to his room, opening the door for her before closing it once she entered. She approached his bed and saw his eyes barely open. Midoriya's breathing was labored, but he managed to muster a smile for her. He greeted her with a soft compliment, and Uraraka rushed to his side, gently brushing his hair with her fingers. She expressed her relief that he was okay, kissing his forehead tenderly. He reassured her that everything was fine, but she insisted he needed to rest. He shook his head slowly, wanting to look at her. Uraraka encouraged him to rest, reminding him that everyone wanted him to get better and that she would be there when he woke up. Tears fell from her eyes onto his chest as he reached up to wipe them away, promising her he would be okay. He took her hand, holding it close to his heart, and soon fell asleep. Uraraka settled into a nearby chair, watching him breathe steadily. Daylight crept into the room, and Ashido and Kirishima quietly entered, taking their own seats beside her. Kirishima asked how Midoriya was holding up, and Uraraka brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, her eyes tired but focused on him. She shared the good news that he would be okay, but Ashido noticed her lingering sadness. Uraraka expressed her frustration about the girl who had hurt him, feeling guilty for not protecting him better. Kirishima reassured her that Midoriya had wanted to enjoy the trip with her and that she had been there for him when he needed her. Uraraka struggled to contain her emotions, biting her lip as she reflected on her actions. She felt she could have done more to keep him safe. Ashido urged her not to blame herself, reminding her that sometimes things just happen. Uraraka stood up, needing a moment to herself. Kirishima and Ashido looked at Uraraka with concern and shook their heads when she asked if they wanted a drink. Uraraka sighed and instructed them to keep an eye on him as she exited the room, closing the door behind her. Leaning against the wall next to the door, she brushed her hair back and took a deep breath. Out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a familiar red-haired girl, and anger began to rise within her. Uraraka confronted Aya, demanding to know what she was doing there. Aya's expression was one of sadness as she explained that she was there to talk to both of them. Uraraka, clearly irritated, ordered Aya to come outside with her and to dispose of the flowers she was holding. As they walked to the elevator, Aya followed closely behind, tossing the flowers into the garbage before stepping inside. The elevator took them to the rooftop. Once the doors opened, they made their way to the rooftop entrance. Aya glanced around nervously, but her attention quickly shifted as Uraraka's fist flew toward her. The punch landed solidly, causing Aya to stumble back and fall to the ground, a trickle of blood escaping her lips. Uraraka shook her hand, placing it on her hip, her expression still filled with anger. Uraraka demanded to know what Aya wanted to discuss. Aya, still holding her jaw, managed to stand up and admitted that she knew she deserved the punch. Uraraka, however, felt that Aya deserved more but recalled that Midoriya would want her to be better than that. She pressed for an answer to her question. Aya wiped the blood from her mouth and faced Uraraka, fear evident in her eyes, but she continued to speak. She wanted to share her story to help Uraraka understand her actions. Uraraka let out a soft chuckle, then burst into laughter, incredulous at Aya's audacity to think that after everything she had done, Uraraka would feel sympathy for her. Despite Uraraka's harsh words, Aya pleaded for a chance to speak, insisting that it was important. Uraraka crossed her arms, contemplating the request before finally agreeing to give her a bit of time, but not without making her intentions clear. She stepped closer, their faces inches apart, and warned Aya to stay away from Izuku, emphasizing that he would not want to see her again after the way she had treated him. Aya stumbled back, acknowledging Uraraka's words. Uraraka told her to make it quick, as she had promised to be there when Izuku woke up. As Aya began to explain her troubled past, she revealed that her mother had always set high expectations for her while her father made inappropriate comments about her body. This situation escalated to the point where her father had harmed her. Instead of protecting her, her mother felt jealousy and anger towards Aya. Eventually, Child Protective Services intervened, removing her from her family. Aya then entered the foster system, where she met Midoriya. Still grappling with the trauma from her past, she developed a hatred for men, mirroring her mother's feelings. This led her to hurt Midoriya in ways that echoed her father's actions. However, after their relationship, she found a loving family that provided her with therapy, helping her to confront her past and recognize the harm she had caused. After sharing her story, Uraraka reflected on Aya's experiences. She acknowledged the pain and loneliness Aya had endured but maintained that it did not excuse her actions. Aya turned away, wishing she could take it all back. Uraraka reminded her that what was done and that if she had been honest with Midoriya, he would have understood her. However, it was best for Aya to move on from him, focusing on the happiness she could find in her new life. As Aya began to cry softly, Uraraka encouraged her to pursue new interests, suggesting that there might be someone else who could bring her joy. Aya sniffled and nodded, admitting that she had never thought of another boy that way but was starting to realize her feelings. Uraraka smiled slightly and encouraged her to pursue that happiness. As she leaned away from the wall and started to head back into the hospital, Aya called out her thanks, expressing her gratitude to Uraraka. Uraraka looked back over her shoulder, reminding herself of the conversation they had. She instructed Aya not to mistake their interaction for friendship and encouraged her to live a better life. With that, she shut the door behind her and made her way to Izuku's room. Upon entering, she found that Kirishima and Ishido were no longer there, but Izuku was awake. A smile spread across her face as she approached his bed. Izuku greeted her with a hint of concern, curious about where she had gone. She explained that she had been talking with Aya, and his eyes widened slightly in response. When she playfully mentioned that she had punched Aya, Izuku expressed his disapproval, reminding her that it wasn't a nice thing to do. Uraraka defended her actions, pointing out that Aya had not been kind to him either. Izuku chuckled, slightly embarrassed by her boldness. As he sat up, he pulled his breathing mask away and playfully pulled Uraraka into his lap. She was surprised but felt comforted by his warmth. Their moment of closeness intensified, but when she leaned in, he winced in pain, prompting her to pull back immediately and apologize. He reassured her not to worry, and she placed his mask back over his mouth, insisting he should rest. Izuku then asked if she would sign his cast, which he wanted to keep as a memento. She agreed, but only if he stopped talking and focused on resting. After he nodded, she took a marker and wrote, "Izuku's lover, Ochako Uraraka," on the cast, causing his face to flush with embarrassment. He expressed his delight at her message, and she felt the sense of satisfaction. Weeks passed since Izuku had been hospitalized, and he had made significant progress. The cast was no longer necessary, but he chose to keep it as a reminder of the support he received from his friends and family. Though his leg was still bruised, he was determined to walk normally despite a slight limp. Uraraka entered his room with a few school uniforms in hand, excited to help him try them on. She assured him that she remembered his size, and he felt guilty for the trouble she had gone through. She kissed his cheek, telling him not to worry, and encouraged him to try on the uniforms. As he changed, Uraraka found herself flustered by his muscular build and the scars that told stories of his battles. When he finished and looked at her, she felt her cheeks heat up. He teased her about being flustered, and she playfully defended herself, attributing her reaction to his presence. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken tension, and Izuku leaned closer, teasing her about her cute reaction. Uraraka felt overwhelmed by the moment, aware of the time that had passed since their last NTMT encounter. She questioned his boldness lately, and he responded with a smile, asking if it bothered her. When she shook her head, he leaned in closer, leaving a gentle mark on her neck and whispering that it was hard to resist. Despite the excitement coursing through her, Uraraka was concerned for his well-being, knowing he was still in pain. She expressed her hesitation, but Izuku reassured her, kissing her softly and pulling her up from her seat. He leaned against the hospital bed to ease the pressure on his injured foot. Uraraka hesitated, worried about being seen, but Izuku encouraged her to lock the door and close the blinds. After she did so, she returned to his embrace, feeling a sense of relief. He asked for permission to continue, and she nodded, affirming that he was allowed. Without much hesitation, he lifted her skirt and pulled her close. Their lips met in a kiss that felt more intense than usual, igniting a warmth between them. As the kiss continued, she found it difficult to breathe and eventually had to pull away. They both breathed softly, gazing at each other with longing. She asked what had gotten into him, her cheeks flushed. He admitted he had been needing this moment. He picked her up and laid her gently on the bed, kneeling over her. He gave her a soft kiss and began to unbutton her shirt, his gaze locked onto hers. She felt a rush of embarrassment and looked away. He kissed her neck and whispered that he loved her, causing her heart to race. This was a side of him she hadn't seen before, but she felt ready to embrace it. He asked her to look at him, and after a moment of hesitation, she met his gaze again. As their eyes locked, he continued to remove her clothing, layer by layer, until she was left feeling exposed. His hands explored her body, and she felt a growing warmth within her. He teased her, asking if she was excited, and she blushed, hiding her face with her hands. She playfully complained about being the only one without clothes. He chuckled and kissed her hand, then began to remove his own shirt. She peeked through her fingers as he unbuckled his pants and took them off, leaning back over her. He asked if this was better for her, and she nodded, placing her hands on his arms. He moved closer, and she felt a rush of anticipation. As he began to touch her, she responded, feeling the heat between them intensify. Just then, a knock at the door interrupted them. A voice called out, asking if he was awake. He responded, trying to sound casual despite the situation. Uraraka blushed and began to move her hips, and he struggled to maintain his composure. He whispered to her, trying to keep the moment alive while they both felt the tension of being interrupted. The voice at the door offered to wait until he was finished, and he quickly tried to dismiss them while continuing to focus on her. As the door was still a concern, he found it challenging to keep quiet. The voice reminded him to press the button next to his bed when he was done, and he agreed, feeling the pressure mount. Once the coast was clear, he resumed their NTMT moment. And she responded eagerly. They shared kisses, their movements becoming more synchronized as they lost themselves in each other. He felt a rush of emotions, and as they reached a peak of pleasure, they both found a sense of release. Afterward, they lay together, wrapped in each other's arms. He suggested they should be more careful next time, acknowledging the risk they had taken. She playfully reminded him of a previous encounter at a festival, and they both laughed, sharing a tender moment. As they discussed their feelings, he shyly asked if she wanted to do it again, And she nodded, her cheeks flushed with excitement. After returning home from their trip to Hawaii, the end of high school was approaching, and prom was just around the corner. Uraraka felt nervous but excited to look her best for Midoriya. She and Momo were out shopping for dresses, eager to prepare for the special night. The other girls had already found their outfits, making this shopping trip feel like the perfect plan. As they walked down the sidewalk, Momo expressed her excitement for the event, sharing that her heart was racing. Uraraka agreed, mentioning how nice it felt to dress up for their partners and how much she was looking forward to the delicious sweets at the dance. Momo laughed, teasing Uraraka about her sweet tooth, to which Uraraka playfully replied that she couldn't help it. "I was born with it." When they finally reached the entrance, they spotted a girl with short black hair. Momo recognized her immediately and felt delighted. She approached Jairu, who turned to see Momo. Momo began to communicate with her using sign language while also speaking aloud. Momo expressed her joy at seeing Jairu and inquired about her well-being. Jairu glanced at Uraraka before responding, signing and speaking simultaneously. She mentioned she had been thinking about finding a dress for her special someone. Momo was excited to hear this and introduced Uraraka as another dear friend. Uraraka smiled and waved, feeling a bit shy as she admitted she didn't know sign language. Momo reassured her that Jairu could read lips and encouraged Uraraka to face Jairu while speaking. Uraraka felt relieved and welcomed Jairu, who clarified that she didn't want anyone to feel pity for her, she just wanted to be treated normally. Uraraka promised she would. With a smile, Jairu suggested they get started. The three of them entered the dress shop and began searching through the clothing racks. After about 30 minutes, Uraraka picked out a few dresses she thought would suit her. Suddenly, Jairu tapped Uraraka on the shoulder and asked for her help with fashion, as Momo had mentioned Uraraka's skills. Uraraka smiled and took Jairu's hand, eager to assist. Jairu described her usual style, favoring black clothes, leather, and boots, but she was open to some color as long as it wasn't too flashy. Uraraka thought for a moment and then found a dress that matched Jairu's description. She decided to look for more options, suggesting a jacket, gloves, and maybe a choker to complete the look. Since it was prom, she wanted Jairu to wear something with more color, emphasizing that she should look like the beautiful princess she was, albeit an edgy one. Apologizing for talking so much, Uraraka led Jairu around the store to find the perfect outfit. Once they gathered everything, they searched for Momo and found her in the women's shoe aisle. Uraraka announced that they were ready to try on the clothes. Momo was thrilled and suggested they discover which outfits suited them best. The girls smiled and headed to their dressing rooms. After trying on their dresses, they gathered in front of a large mirror to admire their reflections. Uraraka exclaimed how pretty they looked, and Momo agreed, feeling lovely. Jairu gazed into the mirror, her emotions overwhelming her as she began to tear up. Concerned, Momo and Uraraka turned to her. Momo asked what was wrong, while Uraraka worried that it might be the dress and apologized for not choosing darker colors. Jairu reassured them that she was happy and thanked them for their help. Uraraka offered her assistance for anything else, except math, which she suggested Jairu ask someone else about. Jairu playfully noted how loud Uraraka was, feeling the vibrations of her voice. Momo commented on Uraraka's cheerful nature, explaining why so many people loved her. Uraraka felt touched by the compliment. Momo reminded them that the big day was tomorrow and that they needed to get some beauty sleep. They exited the shop, saying their goodbyes, excited for their special day and the future ahead. Prom had finally begun, and Uraraka was eagerly waiting for Midoriya to arrive at the dance. This night marked their last moments in school, and as anxious thoughts swirled in her mind, she found herself munching on a plate of cupcakes at the snack table. The music blared through the gymnasium, filled with students joyfully enjoying their final moments of youth. Lost in her worries about the future, Uraraka became oblivious to everything around her until she felt warm hands on her shoulders, bringing her a sense of comfort. Midoriya asked if she was all right, and she turned to him, grasping one of his hands. She admitted to feeling a bit scared but found solace in the delicious sweets. Curiously, she inquired about his whereabouts, to which he explained he had been helping his dad with his car, apologizing for being late. Uraraka, surprised to learn about his handy skills, blushed as she took in his appearance. He held a bouquet of flowers, and his nervousness was evident as he began to sweat. She complimented him, saying he looked handsome, and he returned the sentiment, telling her she looked beautiful. Her giggle at his adorable response was cut short when their friends interrupted them. Bakugo suddenly lifted Midoriya off the ground, leaving him bewildered, while Kirishima shouted for Bakugo to put him down. Kaminari joked about the situation, and Tokoyami added his own commentary, while Ojiro and Sato reacted with surprise. Midoriya, confused, wondered what was happening, and Todoroki explained that Kirishima thought it would be fun to provoke Bakugo. Uraraka urged Bakugo to set Midoriya down, while Shiro made a humorous remark about the chaos. Kirishima, sensing the tension, pleaded with Bakugo not to throw Midoriya. Just then, Toga appeared, dressed up and playfully calling out to Bakugo, suggesting he put Midoriya down and join her instead. Bakugo blushed at her attention. Midoriya agreed with Toga's suggestion, and Uraraka echoed his sentiment, insisting Bakugo should let her boyfriend go. Bakugo, however, was not one to take orders easily. Toga, with a mischievous giggle, encouraged him to comply, and despite his anger, Bakugo found himself distracted by her charm, leading to an unexpected nosebleed. Suddenly, a flash caught Bakugo's attention as a small boy with purple hair took a picture of Toga, prompting Bakugo to demand the phone from Mineta, who complied in fear. Midoriya, now on the floor, made a light-hearted comment about his situation, while Uraraka noted that Bakugo was now angrier at someone else. In a fit of rage, Bakugo snapped the phone in half, but Toga intervened, calming him down. She thanked him for his restraint, and Midoriya marveled at her ability to handle Bakugo's temper. Kirishima agreed, admitting he had never seen anyone manage to tame Bakugo like that. As they continued to chat, Kirishima introduced Uraraka to their friends, explaining Sato's love for sweets, Ojiro's military aspirations, and Shiro's artistic side. He also warned her about Mineta's peculiar behavior, though he acknowledged he could be funny at times. Uraraka felt relieved to know who to watch out for, and Midoriya assured her he would protect her, causing her to blush at his serious expression. Their eyes met, and they both felt a rush of warmth, smiling at each other. Kirishima teased them, prompting Uraraka to playfully scold him. Just then, Ashido arrived, jumping into Kirishima's arms and stealing a kiss. She excitedly declared it was time to dance, pulling him toward the dance floor. Kirishima laughed at her enthusiasm, and Uraraka encouraged them to have fun, feeling a sense of joy for her friends as the night continued. They began to dance more energetically than anyone else on the dance floor. The lights flashed throughout the room, and the loud music pulsed with a fast rhythm. Ashido encouraged with enthusiasm, while Kirishima responded with a playful nod. Midoriya observed their joy and chuckled, noting how much fun they were having. Uraraka expressed her eagerness to join in, and Midoriya admitted he wasn't the best dancer but was willing to give it a shot. With a smile, Uraraka playfully referred to him as her handsome penguin. She placed her flowers on a table, and together they stepped onto the dance floor, laughter and conversation flowing between them. Midoriya made his best effort to move to the beat, with Uraraka guiding him through the steps. As they danced, they became entranced in each other's eyes, their movements gradually slowing down. Midoriya smiled and gently cupped her cheek, leaning in for a tender kiss. Tears of joy filled Uraraka's eyes. She had never felt as happy as she did in that moment, and Midoriya shared her sentiment. They felt safe with one another, free from any drama, simply enjoying a night filled with love and fun. Midoriya pulled away just enough to wipe her tears, then kissed her again, holding her closer and deepening their connection. In that moment, no words were necessary. They both understood that their love would last forever.